Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, students. How are you doing today? Hope all had a good time from the last session. It was so very encouraging to see your enthusiasm in the last class and your answers for the questions. And I wish to see the same enthusiasm for this class also, as I had informed you last class itself. The concept of supply is very, very important. So we will have to concentrate on this chapter of supply, and this will help us to move forward. Okay, great. So we'll start with the topic now. We'll start with supply. So we'll recapitulate what we had basically said under the supply, and we'll start from there. So basically, section 7 says what is supply. Supply includes, right? We mentioned what is exhaustive definition, what is inclusive definition, and we're studying on what is supply. Supply should be of goods or services. What are the essentials for supply? It should be of goods or services. Okay. Other than goods and services would be what? Immovable property. So immovable property is out of GST, right? Then it should be for a consideration, and it should be in the course or furtherance of business. Okay. Supply of goods or services for consideration in the course or furtherance of business. Exception is 7(1)(b), which is import of services. For import of services, even if it is not in the course of business, it is still liable to GST. And exception for consideration is Schedule 1. So Schedule 1 items, for these items, if there is no consideration, still it will be treated as supply. Okay. And 7(2), section 7, subsection 2 says transactions which are out of scope of supply, which is given in Schedule 3. Okay, so this is what we have covered basically under supply. Now we'll go into details of understanding various definitions and understanding the various terms under Schedule 1, Schedule 2, and Schedule 3. Now, goods means every kind of movable property. What are the definition of goods and services? Very important, because you just said GST is applicable on goods and services, but what is goods and what is services? Definition of goods is goods means every kind of movable property. Simple, yes. Goods means every kind of movable property. So if it is immovable property, it is not goods, right? So goods means every kind of movable property. It excludes money and securities, but includes the following things. So they've said goods includes every kind of movable property, but to avoid any confusion or any litigation, they've clarified what it specifically includes. It includes actionable claim. Okay. Goods includes actionable claim, and growing crops, grass, and things attached to or forming part of the land, which are agreed to be severed before supply or under a contract of supply. Okay. Which means, what does it include? It includes every kind of mobile property, and it specifically includes actionable claim. What is actionable claim? Any right, okay, any right to claim something from another person is actionable claim. Example, if I sell some goods on credit, if it's on cash, then it is settled, no worries. If it is on credit basis, when I sell goods to somebody and he agrees to pay me later on, right? So there I have an actionable claim against him saying that you had agreed to pay me and I had fulfilled my obligation of supplying the goods to you. So you have to pay me the money against it. That is an actionable claim. Okay. So any actionable claim is goods, like lottery tickets. Now, few states have lottery tickets, right? So when a lottery ticket is issued and the winner is selected, now the winner, once he's selected, he has the lottery ticket, he has an actionable claim against the company which has issued the lottery. So against this lottery, which is striked and which is clicked the number, he can take this and go to the lottery issuing company and say, this is the number which is strike and you have to give me the amount. So this, he has an actionable claim. So actionable claim, to decide whether it's goods or services, they have clarified that goods means actionable claims. Okay. Then growing crops, grass, and things attached to a farming part of the land, which are agreed to be severed before supply or under a contract of supply. So I sell a land is a mobile property. Now, then there is some crops or grass or any kind of plants which are growing on that land. Now that will also be an immobile property generally, because it is growing attached to the land. So we have understood the definition of immobile property. What is immobile property? Anything attached to or forming part of the land. But what they are trying to consider here is these growing crops, grass, and things attached to a farming part of the land, which are agreed to be severed. So wherein I had agreed that I will sell you a land and I will sell you the growing crops, like example, mango trees. Now somebody will buy a land based not only on the land, how many, what are the fruit giving trees in that land. So if it is a mango tree which is grown on a 1 acre of land, then, and it is agreed that these mangoes will be severed and it will be sold to you. So then they cannot escape from GST saying that, no, I sold only movable property, because these mangoes were agreed to be severed under a contract of supply. So there will be two contracts, and one is sale of the immobile property and sale of those fruits. Okay. If it is a growing crops which is just planted, and like a mango tree, it takes around 10 years. So you cannot tell a plant which is there over there and you are agreed to sell it, because the plants, when it will grow after 2 years, but you have executed your contract now itself. So then it will not be treated as it will not be treated as a goods, it will be treated as an immobile property. So very slight difference: growing crops, grass, and things attached to a farming part of the land, which is agreed to be severed before supply or under a contract of supply. Before supply, if I agree that I will sell you this also, then that portion of the plants, growing crops, or anything attached to land will become goods. Okay. Then services. Services means anything other than goods. Okay, so anything what is defined under goods is goods, and services means anything other than goods, but it also excludes money and securities. So both goods includes money and securities, services also include money and securities, but it includes activities relating to use of money, like money is excluded. When I give money and get something, or I give loan to somebody and get that back, that is not a service, because that's only a exchange of money. But use of money, like currencies, okay, when I use money for something, if I give it to somebody and I get interest, then that interest becomes service. Okay, and conversion of money by cash or by any other mode from one form currency denomination to another, for which a separate consideration is charged. Like I exchange INR for US dollars. For that, there is a conversion charge which is levied. So this exchange of one form of currency to another form of currency is not a service, because it is overall money itself, either in Indian currency or foreign currency, it is money. But any consideration charged for changing the denomination or changing the currency, that is a consideration. So the conversion charge is what is being levied. That will be liable to GST, but not the money transaction itself. Okay, so that's the definition of goods and services. If supplier sells the goods less than the purchase price in case of some contingency, and his collected GST on that supply is less than ITC available of that supply, so can he set off his excess ITC from other liabilities? Yes, he can offset it, but it should be for the business. If it is for non-business of a personal use, then he cannot set off Pitalwala. So if he has any credit line and if he's doing any other business, he can set it off. Actionable claims I've defined. Sir, agriculture income is free from tax, then how could mangoes be taxable? So I'm not saying it is taxable, it is goods. Now, whether the goods are taxable or no, that will come at a later point of time, Mahak Avasti. But I'm saying that it is goods. Okay, if it is goods, then whether GST will apply or no, that is the second thing. We are just saying whether it will apply for taxation or no, it is goods. That's all. Severed. What is severed? Severed means cutting of the plants, taking out of the plants, taking the thing from the land. It's called as severed. Okay, great. So you understood the definition of goods and services. Now we'll go into the 8 terms what is defined under the supply. So we've seen that 8 terms have been defined. We'll understand that. Why is securities excluded from GST? Is it service, right? In common parlance, it is a medium where shares and securities are traded, and as per business definition, trade is included. Correct. So securities as such is excluded, which means if I buy any shares, okay, I am buying shares and it's an equity which I'm buying. So it is not a goods, not a service, because it's a It's not a mobile property, neither a mobile property, neither there is any service involved. It is in some way equivalent to the money. So instead of you giving money to the company, you're giving money to the company, right? When you're dealing in transactions of shares and securities, you're giving money to the company and they're giving you shares. So it's a equivalent to a transaction of money. So that security transaction is also excluded. But when you go to a stockbroker and tell him to buy, he will levy some brokerage charges. That is a separate transaction. That is any transaction of use of money or anything to do with other than securities. On that, GST will apply. But the transaction or trading of securities per se is not liable. This is not goods, not services. If material is supplied, customer has deducted LD. What will be the effect on GST? If a material is supplied and customer has deducted LD, what is LD? What is the effect on GST? So basically, if I make a supply and whatever I make a supply on that, GST will apply. Now, if the customer deducts something, then they will pay it later on. That's fine. But whenever I make a supply on the full invoice value, GST will be payable. They charge GST on brokerage? Yes, GST is charged on brokerage. Okay, by the time we get answer of LD from Sarfaraz, we'll go to the next slide. What are the 8 terms which is defined under supply? Supply includes sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, disposal, lease, and rental. Now, what is sale? Sale meaning is transfer of ownership of and title to property from one person to another person for a price. So transfer of ownership and title to the property from one person to another person for a price. Okay, transfer of ownership and title to the property. So if I have a pen and I'm selling it to somebody, so I'm transferring the property, the right of using that pen, of either selling it or keeping it on loan, everything is getting transferred. So that complete ownership is getting transferred. So transfer of ownership and title to the property from one person to another person is called as sale. It is a contract where the seller transfers or agreed to transfer the property and goods to the buyer for a price. So that's the meaning under sale of goods. And like sale of laptops, any sales is sale. Sale is simple to understand. Transfer. What is transfer? To convey or remove from one place to another. So when I transfer, means taking something from one place to another place, that is transfer. Transfer from warehouse to showroom. Any transfer is covered under supply. Why this transfer is required to be mentioned? Because in GST, any transfer you do, who will transfer this without consideration? If you are having head office and you are having a branch office. Okay, any transaction you do from head office to branch office, that will be treated as covered under transfer. Okay, so what do you mean, sir? Does that mean that if I'm in one state registered under one GST number and I supply from my head office to branch office, is GST payable? Not exactly. It is a transfer, but on that GST will not apply. GST will apply if I make a transfer from one registered unit to another registered unit. So within the state, if I have a head office and I have a branch and I have taken 2 registrations, for the head office separate and branch office separate, then I have to charge GST, because then it become a transfer. Because there is a concept under a registration wherein if you make any supply between distinct person means any branches etc. अगर कुछ वहां पे मैं ट्रांसफर करता हूं तो GST लगेगा, और अगर मैं एक स्टेट से दूसरे स्टेट के लिए कुछ सप्लाई करता हूं तब GST लगेगा. एक और एग्जांपल ले लीजिए, जब मैंने एक ही रजिस्ट्रेशन लिया है, आई हैव टेकन ओनली वन रजिस्ट्रेशन फॉर द होल स्टेट एंड आई हैव लाइक 2-3 ब्रांचेस, देन एनी ट्रांसफर फ्रॉम वन ब्रांच टू अनदर ब्रांच विल नॉट बी ट्रीटेड एज liable to GST, but it will be treated as transfer. वो exemption में आ जाता है under registration. So within a state, if you have separate registrations, then it is liable to GST. But if it is within one registration, then it is not liable to GST. Okay. Then barter. Barter is to exchange goods or services for other goods or services which we know. So instead of using money, I'm using the other services. I can use other person's goods. That is a barter service. Example I've given you earlier also. CA consultancy services provided for, and I've received the medical services by a doctor. Then exchange. Exchange is an act of giving or taking one thing for another. So if I exchange, so it is if I sell my old, if I get a new vehicle, I give off my old vehicle and pay extra 20,000 rupees. So that's an example of exchange. Is it not similar to barter? Barter is wherein I give something and get something equivalent. There's no money involved. Exchange is I give something, I pay additional consideration also. That is example of exchange. Then license. What is license? Permission which is granted by competent authority to engage in a business or occupation or in any activity which is otherwise unlawful. Like I give a license to enter the property, lease and licensing which I give. So if I have to give a construction contract to a builder, I have to give him a right to enter the property, right? That is called as licensing, wherein I give him the right to enter the property. If he would otherwise enter, that becomes illegal. Once I agree, I confirm that he can enter, that becomes a valid treatment. That is a license example. Then disposal. What is disposal? Sale, pledge, giving away, use or consumption or any disposition of a thing. So basically, disposal is sale or transfer, but property does not possess the merchantable warranty, which means I'm disposing it off, or firstly, without consideration. Yes, I'm disposing it off without consideration. But another important thing is it does not have a merchantable warranty, which means if I'm disposing a laptop to some NGO, they cannot come to me and say, no, what you've given me a wrong laptop, which is not working, take it back or repair it and give me. That is not possible because it does not have a merchantable warranty. But if I do a sale, then in any defect, I will be responsible. But in case of a disposal, firstly, no consideration, and it does not possess a merchantable warranty. Rental is arrangement of renting of something, renting of property, renting of goods. All of this are rental. Renting of property becomes under license, and renting of movable property is under rental. Lease, to make a legal agreement by which money is paid in order to use land, a building, a vehicle, or a piece of equipment for an agreed period of time. Okay, so when I enter, a very subtle difference between rental and lease. Leasing is when I enter into a legal agreement for which money is paid in order to use to be a land, a building, or a vehicle, or any piece of equipment. Lease is where possession is transferred along with the right to use property. In case of license is similar to lease except that possession is not transferred. So in lease, possession is also transferred. In license, possession is not transferred, which means I am still the owner. But in lease, I am the owner, but he can enter into the use the property completely. Now, as per classification Schedule 2, we understood that Schedule 2 is a classification wherein license, lease, and rental of goods with or without transfer of right is treated as supply of service. Okay, so it's just for your understanding that what is goods, what is services. In case of license, rental, and lease, it is a supply of service. Okay, liquidation damages. So if liquidation damages, Sarfaraz, in your question, if he deducts something, then the value of supply is fixed for you. So on the supply value, you have to pay the complete GST. If I'm selling the agricultural land, okay, and I have to value the land and goods separately, how is it possible? So generally it's not possible, but if there is a segregation which is decided, but generally it will be understood what is the value of the land. Right? You'll know the market value of the land. Anything extra what you're considering, then that could be divided that it is for the additional things which are developing from the land. That's how you will distinguish between the value of the land and value of the complete other things which you're selling. Okay. So on trading, only securities transaction tax is charged and no GST. No, on trading, security transaction is charged, and on trading, brokerage also is charged, correct? So when a broker charges the brokerage, on the brokerage, he will charge the GST also. And stamp duty is also there. So when you do trading and securities, you'll see 2-3 taxes are there. One is brokerage, broker's brokerage, then security transaction tax, stamp duty, and GST on the brokerage. All of this is levied. Transfer without consideration is taxable. Because of the Schedule 1, it becomes taxable. So they didn't want to leave out anything. We know Schedule 1 is there. Schedule 1 says that anything you do which is supply without consideration, it becomes taxable. So transfer without consideration, if those categories are mentioned in Schedule 1, then that will also become taxable. So if you are selling goods on credit, then is sale completed? Yes. So as soon as the transfer of property happens, then sale is completed, irrespective of whether the customer pays you money or no. For you, the sale is complete. So sale is treated as completed there once you raise an invoice. So I'm a money lender and I charge interest on lent money. Am I chargeable to GST because I'm dealing in money, and money per se is excluded from supply of definition? Very good question, Ramchandra. So money per se is excluded. Now I charge interest. Is interest treated as money or not money? Interest is not treated as money because it is in the definition of supply. If you see anything you do, okay, for conversion of money or use of money. So interest per se is service, correct? So interest is service, but you have an exemption. You have an exemption for interest. That's the reason you will not charge GST on interest. If that notification or the entry on the interest saying that interest is exempted goes off, then on interest GST will be payable. But for now, on such interest, GST is not payable because it is a service, but it is exempted by the exemption notification. डिस्पोजल को हिंदी में बता दो. डिस्पोजल दे देना, किसी को दे देना बिना कंसिडरेशन के, दैट इज द एग्जांपल ऑफ डिस्पोजल. किसी चीज को दे दिया, आपने बेच दिया तो सेल हो जाता है. अगर किसी चीज को आपने किसी को दे दिया है तब वो डिस्पोजल हो जाता है. सर इफ यू आर सेलिंग गुड्स ऑन क्रेडिट देन इज सेल कंप्लीटेड, बता दिया मैंने. लीज को जीएसटी चार्ज किया जाएगा. हाँ, लीज के ऊपर जीएसटी चार्ज होगा. Sir, if ownership gets transferred in lease, ownership doesn't get transferred in lease. Lease transfer नहीं. दोनों लीज और लाइसेंस में ओनरशिप ट्रांसफर नहीं होगा. अगर जब ओनरशिप ट्रांसफर हो जाता है तब वो सेल आ जाएगा. इवन इन लीज एंड लाइसेंस ओनरशिप इज नॉट गेटिंग ट्रांसफर. यू आर गिविंग हिम अ राइट टू यूज इट फॉर सम टाइम पीरियड बट नॉट फॉर अ वेरी लॉन्ग पीरियड, बट नॉट लाइक कंप्लीटली उसको ही ट्रांसफर हो रहा है. क्या Ashwin, your questions are getting repeated 3-4 times. So just check if you're pressing the send button multiple times. Gift को disposal कह सकते हैं? Yes, gift को disposal कह सकते हैं. Definitely. Okay, we'll take some examples. A buys a table for 10,000 rupees for his personal use and sells it after 10 months of use to a dealer. Now, is this considered as a supply? Am I into ट्रेडिंग ऑफ द टेबल? नहीं, मैंने पर्सनल यूज के लिया था. नाउ आई वांटेड टू सेल इट, मेरा यूज खत्म हो गया. सो दिस इज नॉट कंसिडर्ड अ सप्लाई एज दिस इज नॉट डन बाय मिस्टर ए फॉर द फर्दरेंस ऑफ बिजनेस. तो बिजनेस टेबल बेचने की बिजनेस में नहीं है. देन दिस विल नॉट बी ट्रीटेड एज बिजनेस, दिस विल नॉट बी ट्रीटेड एज अ सप्लाई. मिस्टर मिसेस बी, बिकॉज इसमें क्या है, इट इज फॉर कंसिडरेशन एंड इट इज the other leg is it should be for business, and I am not into the business of trading of table, so this will not be treated as supply. Mrs. B provides free coaching to neighboring students as a hobby. मतलब वो फ्री कोचिंग तो प्रोवाइड कर रही है और कंसिडरेशन नहीं ले रही है, तो इसको जीएसटी कहेंगे? नो, दिस इज नॉट जीएसटी बिकॉज it is not considered as a supply as this act is not performed for a consideration. तो कंसिडरेशन भी जरूरी है और बिजनेस होना दोनों जरूरी है. दिस इज व्हाट वी अंडरस्टूड फ्रॉम दीस टू एग्जांपल्स. नाउ व्हेन अ न्यू मोबाइल वर्थ 10,000 is purchased in exchange of an old mobile along with the monetary consideration of 2,000, this is an example of exchange. तो इसके ऊपर जीएसटी कितने के ऊपर लगेगा? whether on 2,000 or 10,000. If barter is taxable, then how the value is ascertained? Value is ascertained through the valuation rules. So जब भी आप without consideration कुछ भी transaction करते हो, then you have to go to the valuation rules. Valuation rules आपको बताएगा कि various criteria क्या है. What will be the value of this goods had it been sold to any person outside? Third party के लिए कितना में बेचेंगे? Then we'll see the various prices और उसका average निकालेंगे. All of those criteria will decide the value for barter transaction. ऑडिट फीस पे जीएसटी चार्ज होगा? यस, इट इज सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विस, सो ऑडिट फीस के ऊपर जीएसटी चार्ज होगा. कैन लेसर्स सेल द लीज प्रॉपर्टी? यस, लेसर्स कैन सेल द लीज प्रॉपर्टी. कैन आई क्लेम इन इनकम टैक्स आईटीसी? नो, यू कैन नॉट क्लेम बिकॉज आईटीसी ऑल्सो मिलेगा और इनकम टैक्स नहीं, तो डबल बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगा. इफ यू आर नॉट क्लेमिंग आईटीसी देन इट बिकम्स एन एक्सपेंस. इफ यू आर क्लेमिंग आईटीसी इट इज नॉट एन एक्सपेंस, इट्स एन असेट फॉर यू. तो आपको आईटीसी के ऊपर इनकम टैक्स का बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगा. सर हमने ज्वेलरी परचेज किया तो हमें उसका क्रेडिट मिलेगा क्या? आपने ज्वेलरी परचेज किया है पर्सनल यूज के लिए तो फिर उसका क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा क्योंकि बिजनेस यूज के लिए होना चाहिए. आप बिजनेस की यूज के लिए ज्वेलरी क्यों परचेज करोगे? अब तो ज्वेलरी पर्सनल यूज के लिए करोगे तो पर्सनल यूज के ऊपर आपको जीएसटी का क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा। अब जब आईटीसी पढ़ोगे तब समझ में आएगा आपको कि एनी एसेट व्हिच इज बीइंग यूज्ड फॉर द बिजनेस, फिर उसके ऊपर जीएसटी मिलेगा। तो सब लोगों ने आंसर दिया है 2000. Many people have said 2000 because 2000 is the value of consideration. Arpita, your comments are visible. Yes, it is visible. But few people have said the value is 10,000. GST is on 10,000. Correct. So GST is on 10,000, not on 2000, because जब मोबाइल डीलर मेरे को बेच रहा है वो कितने का वैल्यू का मोबाइल बेच रहा है, 10,000 का। ठीक है, तो उसको 10,000 ही बिल रेस करना है, उसके ऊपर उसको नीचे लिखना है एक्सचेंज ऑफ मोबाइल रिडक्शन ऑन द फुल वैल्यू, नॉट ऑन 10,000 पे 8,000 रेड्यूस करके 2000 नहीं, उसको पूरा सेल वैल्यू उसका क्या है 10,000 है, उसको 10,000 के ऊपर ही जीएसटी कलेक्ट करना है। So if I am under contract of supply and before supply I have received advance and after supply I received paid rest amount, will I have to pay GST twice on each supply? Nahi. If it is supply of goods, then when you raise an invoice, you have to pay. But if it is supply of service, on the value of advance, you pay GST. Then on the balance value, when you raise the invoice, you pay. So GST double time to nahi lagega. You have to understand when you receive advance. On advance, will you pay GST? No, for goods. If you're receiving advance for supply of goods, then there is an exemption which says that advance received against supply of goods के ऊपर advance के ऊपर GST नहीं लगेगा. When you raise the invoice, you pay. But if it is advance for services, then you have to pay GST on receipt of advance itself. So time of supply में this concept will be there, but not in portion of your intermediate thing. Okay. Transfer without consideration is similar to example ये. Correct. Transfer without consideration is example B, because A में तो consideration है, वो उसको consideration आ रहा है, but it is not in the course or furtherance of business. What is RCM? RCM is reverse charge mechanism, that when the appropriate topic comes, I will discuss there. Second example is not of disposal. Second example is not of disposal. No, second example is not for disposal. Second example is when I provide something without consideration, because there it is not disposal. Disposal is giving away of some property, and disposal cannot be of service. Disposal will generally be of goods. So in this case, it is not disposing of. She's not teaching away just like that. She has an interest and she's teaching in. So it is a supply of service without consideration. That's why it is not a supply. फर्स्ट एग्जाम्पल में जीएसटी क्यों नहीं है? फर्स्ट एग्जाम्पल में जीएसटी नहीं है बिकॉज इट इज नॉट इन द कोर्स ऑफ फर्दरेंस ऑफ बिजनेस। आईटीसी का फुल फॉर्म इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट, जो हमने चार्ट देखा था कल एक्सेल में, दैट इज द एग्जाम्पल ऑफ इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट। सर सप्लाई के डेफिनेशन में विदाउट कंसिडरेशन भी इंक्लूड था? विदाउट कंसिडरेशन इंक्लूड था इफ इट इज कवर्ड अंडर शेड्यूल 1। जब शेड्यूल 1 में होगा तब लगेगा, वरना नहीं लगेगा। सर आईटीसी के लिए बिजनेस के नाम पे ज्वेलरी नहीं हो सकता है? नहीं, आईटीसी के लिए आप बिजनेस नाम दे दो वो चलेगा नहीं, बिकॉज यू हैव टू शो दैट यू हैव सोल्ड इट और यू यूज्ड इट फॉर योर बिजनेस। ज्वेलरी खरीदोगे आप, हाउ विल यू प्रूव दैट यू हैव यूज्ड इट फॉर योर बिजनेस? कांट प्रूव, सो आपको आईटीसी नहीं मिलेगा। ठीक है, नेक्स्ट एग्जांपल, when a laptop is supplied for 30,000 along with the barter of printer that is manufactured by the recipient is an example of barter। तो मैं लैपटॉप सप्लाई कर रहा हूँ और उसके अगेंस्ट प्रिंटर ले रहा हूँ और कुछ कंसिडरेशन नहीं दे रहा हूँ, दैट्स एन एग्जांपल ऑफ बार्टर। तो मैं लैपटॉप जो सप्लाई कर रहा हूँ उसके ऊपर मैं जीएसटी चार्ज करूंगा, और वो जो प्रिंटर मेरे को सप्लाई कर रहा है सामने वाला, वो प्रिंटर के ऊपर जीएसटी चार्ज करेगा। Katrina Kaif uses the services of a makeup artist from USA. Now GST is liable to pay it under reverse charge because it is not, even if it is for personal use, we have said that import के ऊपर GST लगेगा, correct? So even if it is for personal use, if she is hiring a person, a professional from outside India, तो उसके ऊपर reverse charge mechanism RCM पे GST लगेगा। Okay, so there is a concept of reverse charge mechanism। उसके अंदर various categories हैं। एक कैटेगरी बोलता है जब आप इंपोर्ट करते हो कुछ सर्विस को, जब आप सर्विस को कुछ किसी को इंपोर्ट करते हो तब इसके ऊपर आपको जीएसटी पे करना है। शेड्यूल 1 हम देखेंगे क्या क्या आएगा उसमें। if I get a laptop from USA, what is the GST criteria? So if you get a laptop from USA, you have to clear it at the customs. ठीक है, तो customs जब आप clear करोगे तब वहां पे उनको customs में आप वो ये भी करें, unless there's a baggage rules बोलता है कि up to 1 laptop permitted, या बोलता है कि नहीं पर्सनल यूज के लिए आप इधर से लेके जाते हो दैट यू गेट इट, देन दैट इज एग्जेम्प्टेड. बट इफ यू बाय एनी लैपटॉप वो फिर कस्टम्स लगेगा, कस्टम्स क्लियरेंस जब करेंगे और कस्टम्स भी चार्ज करेंगे और जीएसटी भी लगाएंगे. So if jewelry is used as a display in office, if jewelry is used as a display in your office, क्या ऑफिस है आपका, सर्विसेज है, तो फिर आप डिस्प्ले नहीं करोगे. इफ यू आर डिस्प्लेइंग देन यू आर इनटू द बिजनेस ऑफ ज्वेलरी, मतलब जैसे तनिष्क हो गया या कुछ पीसी ज्वेलर्स हो गया, वो डिस्प्ले करते हैं और वो कुछ परचेज करते हैं, देन इट इज इन द कोर्स ऑफ फर्दरेंस ऑफ बिजनेस, उनको क्रेडिट मिलेगा. बट एनी अदर सर्विसेज, एनी अदर कंपनी बस ऐसे डिस्प्ले करेगा, दैट इज नॉट प्रैक्टिकल, दैट विल नॉट बी अलाउड देयर. Why there is GST on import of services? Because they've got it कि हाँ इंपोर्ट आप करते रहो और आप उसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं भरो तो फिर आप इंपोर्ट ही करते रहोगे, क्योंकि जीएसटी नहीं है तो उतना खर्चा कम लगेगा. दैट इज नॉट द इंटेंशन, टू कीप इट इन पैरेलल विद द इंडियन सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स कि उनको भी ठीक से कंपटीशन मिले, इसलिए इंपोर्ट ऑफ सर्विसेज के ऊपर ही जीएसटी लग रहा है. ओके, व्हाट इज कंसिडरेशन? सो मच वी हैव सेड कंसिडरेशन. व्हाट इज कंसिडरेशन? कंसिडरेशन मींस पेमेंट. नाउ consideration matlab if I'm supplying something and I have to get something in return. Now this something in return need not necessarily be in money term itself, it could be in non-monetary terms also, that we have understood clearly. Consideration doesn't mean consideration should be in money, consideration could be in non-money terms also. Consideration can also be in non-monetary, that is either money or in kind, monetary value of any act or forbearance. Consideration need not always flow from the recipient, it can be by a third party. मैं किसी को सप्लाई करता हूँ, now if he pays me only then it is consideration, ऐसा जरूरी नहीं. It could be third party who's paying on his behalf, that is also a valid consideration. However, subsidy given by central government or state government is not considered as a supply. मैं किसी को सप्लाई करता हूँ, गवर्नमेंट बोलता है मैं उसके लिए आपको सब्सिडी दूंगा, so that subsidy if it is coming by the central government or state government, only in that cases it is not considered as a supply. उसके ऊपर जीएसटी चार्ज नहीं करना है. But if it is by any other organization, like fifth point में लिखा है मैंने, subsidy given by Melinda Gates Foundation, it is not a central government, not a state government, तो वो जो सब्सिडी मिलेगा उसके ऊपर भी आपको जीएसटी पे करना है. ठीक है, जैसे मैं एक स्कूल को बैग्स दे सप्लाई करता हूँ, ठीक है, बैग्स का प्राइस है 100 रुपीज, मैंने 50 बैग सप्लाई किया है. अब 50 बैग्स जो मैंने सप्लाई किया एट 100 रुपीज, मेरे को गवर्नमेंट बोलता है सर दिस इज अ गवर्नमेंट स्कूल, सो तुम इसको 100 रुपीज पे सप्लाई नहीं मत करो, 60 रुपीज पे सप्लाई करो, 40 रुपीज हम लोग तुमको सब्सिडी दे देंगे. तो जीएसटी कितने के ऊपर लगेगा? इधर 60 और 100, it will be on 60 only because the subsidy is coming from the central government or state government. ठीक है, but if the same thing of bags which I'm supplying 60 रुपीज पे सप्लाई करो बोल रहा है, और 40 रुपीज मेलिंडा गेट्स फाउंडेशन और एनी नॉन central government or state government authority is saying that you supply and I will give you, NGO is saying that I will give you the differential value, तब आपको 60 तो सप्लाई कर रहे हो लेकिन जीएसटी आपको पूरे 100 के ऊपर पे करना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज द सब्सिडी इज कमिंग फ्रॉम अ नॉन गवर्नमेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. ठीक है, however तो डिपॉजिट गिवन इन रेस्पेक्ट ऑफ सप्लाई ऑफ गुड्स. नाउ अगर मैं किसी को डिपॉजिट देता हूँ सेइंग दैट मेरे को आई वांट टू बी ट्रेडर, आई वांट टू बी अ डीलर ऑफ हिंदुस्तान यूनिलीवर, तो दैट हिंदुस्तान यूनिलीवर सर इफ यू वांट टू बी अ डीलर देन यू हैव टू मेक सम डिपॉजिट विद मी, क्योंकि कल मेरे को क्रेडिबिलिटी का पता नहीं है, सो यू हैव टू मेक अ डिपॉजिट ऑफ 5 लाख रुपीज. सो दिस डिपॉजिट इज इट जीएसटीएबल और नो? अ डिपॉजिट गिवन किसके लिए डिपॉजिट देते हैं? इट्स नॉट एन एडवांस. एडवांस इज एडवांस जो है मैं गुड्स परचेज करूंगा उसके लिए एडवांस देता हूं. बट इफ इट्स अ डिपॉजिट इट इज नॉट एन एडवांस, इट्स अ डिपॉजिट व्हिच आई गिव. जो मैं डिपॉजिट देता हूं इसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा, बिकॉज आई डिपॉजिट और जब मेरा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट खत्म हो जाएगा देन ही विल रिटर्न इट बैक टू मी. It could be interest bearable or non-interest bearable, that is secondary. Deposit के ऊपर तो GST नहीं लगेगा. So a deposit given in respect of supply of goods or services shall not be considered as payment unless, ठीक है, यहाँ तक ठीक है, it will not be considered as payment unless the supplier applies such deposit as consideration for the said supply. तो मेरे पास डिपॉजिट क्यों रखता हूं मैं? मेरी गारंटी के लिए कि कल के दिन जब भी तुम कुछ करोगे और मुझे कंसिडरेशन नहीं मिलेगा, मैं ऑफसेट कर लूंगा. तो अगर मैं कुछ सेल करता हूं और उसका कंसिडरेशन मुझे नहीं मिला है, ओके, एंड दिस डिपॉजिट आई ऑफसेट, जब मैं ऑफसेट कर दूंगा तब डिपॉजिट के ऊपर जीएसटी लगेगा, वरना नहीं लगेगा. ठीक है, तो जनरली डिपॉजिट के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है, बट इफ द सप्लायर एडजस्ट द डिपॉजिट अगेंस्ट द सेल वैल्यू, देन इट विल बी ट्रीटेड एज अ कंसिडरेशन. कंसिडरेशन हैज टू बी क्विड प्रो क्यो. क्विड प्रो क्यो का मतलब समथिंग इन रिटर्न और समथिंग फॉर समथिंग. मतलब क्विड प्रो क्यो जरूरी है. इफ आई सेल समथिंग एंड इफ आई गेट समथिंग इन रिटर्न, तभी बोल सकते हैं कि कंसिडरेशन है, अदरवाइज इट इज नॉट ट्रीटेड एज अ कंसिडरेशन. So consideration has to be from both ends. मैं कुछ सप्लाई करता हूँ और सामने वाला कुछ नहीं करता है, तो that is not a consideration. Correct? It has to be quid pro quo in terms of money, or it could be in terms of non-monetary terms. Okay. Now there are few clarifications on consideration. Donations. Donations generally क्या होता है? I donate it, okay, but I don't expect anything from the other end. So generally they are one-sided. The receiving entity does not give back anything. So quid pro quo नहीं है. Quid pro quo दोनों साइड का transaction. I give something, he gives me something. Donation के केस में I donate it, बस भूल जाता हूँ मैं. So there is no quid pro quo. Donation के ऊपर generally GST नहीं है. However, if there exists a quid pro quo, मतलब something in return है, मतलब मैं donation देता हूँ और जो NGO है उसको एक obligation देता हूँ that you are obliged to do something for me. मैं तुमको डोनेशन दे रहा हूं, तुम मेरे प्रोडक्ट का मार्केटिंग करो. ओके, अगर तुम मार्केटिंग करोगे तभी मैं डोनेशन दूंगा. इन दैट केस इट इज ट्रीटेड एज अ कंसिडरेशन. तो डोनेशन के ऊपर भी जीएसटी लग सकता है. ऐसा नहीं है कि डोनेशन के ऊपर ब्लाइंडली एक एग्जेम्पशन है, नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. देयर इज नो ब्लैंकेट एग्जेम्पशन फॉर डोनेशन. डोनेशन इज कवर्ड अंडर द टर्म ऑफ कंसिडरेशन, और सिंस जनरल डोनेशंस आर नॉट विद और विदाउट क्विड प्रो क्यो, तो डोनेशन के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. बट इफ क्विड प्रो क्यो है तो फिर कंसिडरेशन के ऊपर भी जीएसटी लगेगा. However, if the name of the donor is displayed as an expression of gratitude, मैं डोनेट करता हूँ, वो सिर्फ सिंपल टर्म्स में एक्सप्रेस करते हैं कि ठीक है, we thank Infosys Limited for giving a donation of car. ठीक है, और ये जो फूड है, there is something called as डेली मील्स जो स्कूल्स के लिए देते हैं, उनके जो वैन्स है, वो वैन्स के ऊपर जनरली कौन डोनेट करता है उसका नाम लिखा जाता है. तो इट्स अ सिंपल एक्सप्रेशन ऑफ ग्रेटिट्यूड. बड़ा बड़ा मार्केटिंग नहीं करते हैं. अगर सिंपल एक्सप्रेशन है तो उसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. बट इफ इट इज अ कंप्लीट पब्लिसिटी करते हैं, ओके, दैट वो जो अक्षय पात्रा स्कीम है एग्जाम्पल, वो पूरे इंडिया में फेमस है. अक्षय पात्रा का नाम तो छोटा है, लेकिन जो कंपनी ने दिया उसका नाम बड़ा हो गया. सो इट इज अ पब्लिसिटी द क्लियर्स दिस. सो अगर पब्लिसिटी होता है देन देयर इज a supply, but if it is not publicity related, just simple terms में लिखते हैं, then there is no consideration. Artworks. Now artworks में अगर मैं सब supply करता हूँ, artworks exhibited at galleries or exhibition, nothing is received by the artist for display, so there is no supply. मैं एक artist हूँ, I supply some artworks to display it at the exhibition. मुझे कुछ consideration मिल रहा है, नहीं मिल रहा है, तो no GST. But when किसी को पसंद आ गया and somebody buys, then GST will apply. So these are the two things which has been clarified through circular. तो आपको concentrate करना है. ठीक है. So question times here, quid pro quo समझा दिया मैंने. Can you explain the fourth point of consideration? Fourth point of consideration. Fourth point is subsidy given by central government or state government is not considered as a supply. So when I supply something and I get consideration from the central government or state government, then GST doesn't apply. LIC premium is liable to GST. Yes, LIC premium also is liable to GST. उसका valuation अलग है, but GST तो लगेगा. Is it like security deposit? Yes, deposit, security deposit. Every deposit is deposit itself. So in case if you're using any examples in the, kindly translate to English. Okay, I will ensure that it is translated in English. Can I claim my GST and cancel? Yeah, you can apply for cancellation. Suppose if in example 2, if Mrs. B puts hoarding outside her building that she is providing free coaching, then it is in the course of furtherance of business without consideration. Yeah. Then will it be supply? No. Ultimately, it is business, but it is without consideration, so it's not supply. Because even though no consideration, it is furtherance of her business. That is, it will be a vocation. Vocation, right? It is covered under business. Yes, it is covered under business, but business should be, there are two conditions, right? I said it should be in the course of furtherance of business and it should be for a consideration. If both conditions are satisfied, only then GST will apply. Is GST applied on sponsorship? Yes, GST is applicable on sponsorship because it is not disposal. You are giving sponsorship with the intention to get some benefits over there. So it is definitely liable for GST. And mind you, on sponsorship, the company who takes it, they will not pay GST. It will be paid by the person who's giving the sponsorship. That is also another example of reverse charge mechanism. When I give a sponsorship, service provider, when he gives me a bill for sponsorship, he will not charge GST. You as a sponsorer, you have to pay GST on that. Security charges for installing Wi-Fi and he will ready to give refund whenever I remove Wi-Fi. Is GST chargeable? नहीं. अगर आप security deposit देते हो and he returns back to you, then it is not liable to GST. Dividend is liable to GST? No, dividend also is not liable to GST because it is a consideration for the share to hold. So on dividend, GST is not applicable because it is your right. You have invested and you have got a return of it. So on the return, it is a dividend. Dividend when shares, securities are excluded, dividends are also excluded. So on dividend, GST is not applicable. Forbearance means I am controlling, I'm holding, I'm not doing any actions. That's the meaning of forbearance. Yes, Ashwin, ऐसे तो scam हो सकता है and donation की वजह से GST बचने के लिए, हाँ, that is very much possible. So it is very, very vulnerable. If company is closed, is remaining ITC refundable? No, it is not refundable. Sir, if I sell goods and I paid GST, but after some time customer returns good and recorded sales return, then GST refunded? Yes, there is a concept of credit note. When I sell something, I will charge GST. If the customer returns it, then I will give a credit note and credit note can be reduced from my GST liability. You have understood this. Now we'll get into the definition of business. Business includes any trade, commerce, manufacture, profession, vocation, etc. So this example, what I had given on teaching. So that's a vocation. Trade means buying and selling. Commerce means anything in relation to business itself. Manufacturing activity, professions, all this is treated as business itself, right? And then any incidental or ancillary activity. Matlab, before starting the company, I will incorporate, I will spend something for pre-incorporation expenses for developing the business. So that becomes an example of incidental or ancillary activity. Ancillary activity means in the course of business, I'm supplying air conditioners. So that is my trading activity. But ancillary activity is installing that air conditioner or doing some repair. I generally don't do it, but whenever I sell it to my customers who has bought air conditioners from me, I will do repair services of that. So those incidental or ancillary activities are also included under the definition of business. Now, whether or not there is volume, frequency, continuity, or regularity. So one-off transactions also you do, still it is business. But this one-off activity, if you do it like not in the course of your regular activity, like when I'm registered under GST and I am dealing in trading of goods. Okay, when I'm doing trading of goods and for the goods purposes, I had bought a furniture. Now, if this furniture I sell, then it becomes a business and GST will be chargeable because it is to an entity who is registered under GST. But if it is to an entity who is not registered under GST, I'm using it for personal use, then it will not be liable because in the first example, which I gave you in the last slide, if it is used for personal use, then I'm not bringing it to the business itself. That is out. But if I'm using it for the business, then it is liable for GST. Then supply or acquisition of goods, including capital goods and services. Matlab, any fixed assets if I buy, okay, fixed assets are any tangible assets or intangible assets, that is also in the course of furtherance of business itself. Provision of, why this is important, क्योंकि capital goods पे आपको credit नहीं मिलेगा if this is not there in the business, because input tax credit you get on any goods or services which is used for the business. So they have defined that supply or acquisition of goods, including capital goods and services, is also business. Then provision of facilities to members of a club or association. We have discussed there, here also it is coming, so that they want to cover the club and membership services. So any facilities of members to a club or association, okay, by a club or association to its members is also under business. Then admission of persons to any premises, मतलब exhibitions लगते हैं, okay, और big events happen, trade events, वहाँ पे आपको entry fees लगता है, तो उसके ऊपर भी GST लगेगा, that is also treated as a business. Services supplied by a person as holder of an office, मतलब a holder of an office का मतलब if I'm a director, I'm holding the office of a director, I'm holding the office of a board member, और उसके against जो भी consideration मिलेगा, that is also treated as business. So everything is covered under the definition of business. Then services by a race club, good savari, that horse riding, race courses जो होते हैं, वहाँ पे जो service provide करते हैं, that is also treated as business. Okay. Then activities undertaken by central government, state government or local authority. So activities जो central government or state government provide करती है, उसको भी business कहा है. Okay, so the definition of business is so wide, it covers everything and anything. Okay. Business, some clarification. Ramesh sold a car which he was using for his personal business, for his personal purpose. If personal purpose के लिए रहा है, it is not a supply since it is not made in the course of furtherance of business. Okay, अगर वही car वो business के लिए use करता है, and then he sells it off, he has claimed the depreciation in the business, then there is a clear connection saying that he has used it for his business, and when he sells it, GST, then it will be treated as a supply. Now, Mahima sold her old ornaments to Tanish Jewelers, not a supply since it is not made in the course of furtherance of business. Shah Rukh Khan paints some paintings and sell them. However, the consideration is donated to a charity. Still, it is a supply. Sir, I've given it to charity. Why GST liable? Still, it is liable because आपने तो first sale किया है ना. So once sale of building, sale of painting, it qualifies as supply. Since business includes vocation, आपने vocation के through ये कर दिया है. अगर मैं painting करूँगा, then I would say it is not a supply because मेरा painting कोई खरीदेगा ही नहीं. ठीक है? So if I do such a bad painting, I'm not a painter. But if Star K का अगर शाहरुख खान करता है, even if it is a bad painting, because of his image, people will still buy it. So वहाँ पे there's a different thing because it is, even if it's vocation, it is a activity which is being done to promote the painting activity. तो इसलिए वहाँ पे GST लगेगा. But if I supply, then it is not liable for GST. Recovery of food expenses from employees. मतलब a company has a canteen, it provides the canteen services and recovers the food from value of such compensation, some reimbursements लेते हैं employees से, and they deduct from its salary. On that also GST is payable because it is in the course or furtherance of business. What could be examples of in the course of furtherance of business? Business तो मैं करता ही हूँ, trading activity करता हूँ, professional service provide करता हूँ, services provide करता हूँ, IT enable service करता हूँ, और वहाँ पे क्या ancillary service हो सकता है? These things जब मैं कुछ recover करता हूँ employee से, those are supply in the course or furtherance of business on which GST still applies. Clear? Transfer of shares, GST applicable? No. Transfer of shares is dealing in securities. GST is not applicable. Any goods donated to an institution and underneath name printed and donated by them, whether is it chargeable to GST? No, it will not be chargeable to GST because it just mentioned underneath the name. That's it. Ancillary activities, I gave you an example. Anything which you do in relation to business, but not the main business, those are all ancillary activities. If business is selling and buying of intangible assets, then GST is not charged. Intangible assets could be what? Intangible assets could be in case of selling software, right? Software is service. So software could be, if it is shelf software, then it will be goods. If it is customized software, it is an intangible asset. In that also GST is applicable. If ownership is not getting transferred in lease, then how can we he can sell lease property. So if he's selling, then it is a sale of immobile property. But if his ownership is not transferred, but possession is transferred. So there are 2-3 rights under a immobile property: right to possession, right to sale, right to acquire, right of ownership. The ownership is the ultimate right. If you transfer the ownership, every right is getting transferred. But these small rights, what you're transferring, that is a lease. Okay. Meaning of vocation and ancillary scheme means जब मैं कुछ आर्ट वर्क करता हूँ या समथिंग विच इज ऑफ अ इंटरेस्ट और हॉबी, जैसे कोई डांस करता है, कोई म्यूजिक करता है, या सम पर्सन डज टीचिंग एक्टिविटी. सो दोज आर ऑल नॉट बिजनेस, दैट इज वोकेशन. तो वोकेशन को भी बिजनेस में इंक्लूड कर दिया. डिबेंचर पे जीएसटी लगेगा, डिबेंचर के ऊपर भी नहीं लगेगा. सिक्योरिटीज डेफिनेशन इंक्लूड शेयर, स्टॉक, डिबेंचर्स, bonds and everything. So all of that is considered under the definition of security. Security के अंदर सब कुछ आ जाता है, जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. GST is applicable for fees of actor acting in a movie. Yes, very much. He's providing the service of his acting. On the GST is applicable. The free meal is given to free or for employees, then GST will be charged or no. If it is given free, then no GST, because there is no consideration involved. So if they collect something, there is a consideration, then GST will be charged. If they are giving free to employees, then GST will not be charged. Trademark sale, GST is applicable. Yes, trademark sale ke upar GST is applicable. On sample goods, GST पे क्या हो charge होगा? When I give sample of goods, GST is not applicable, but input tax credit. So the question is, the concept is input tax credit. I've taken input tax credit when I buy some goods. Now I made a sample. Various products I would have made, bought, and then made a sample. तो sample बनाने के लिए आपका input जो भी था, that you have to reverse. क्योंकि sample के ऊपर there is no consideration, so you don't have to pay GST on that. But the input tax credit related to that sample, you cannot claim. So you cannot get the benefit of input also and no output. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है. Input है और अगर आप output पे कर रहे हो तो ठीक है, वरना input है और output tax नहीं है तो फिर input को reverse करना है. Please explain again the point of recovery of food expense. So if I get tax, if I recover something from the employees for the food canteen I provide, and I recover 50 rupees from them per day meal के लिए, so on that GST is applicable. But if this food I provide and I don't consider anything, I don't receive anything, I don't charge any consideration, then GST is not applicable. Patent and trademark के ऊपर GST है. Yes, on patent and trademark also GST is applicable. College fees, GST is applicable. एग्जेम्पशन जब पढ़ेंगे वील गेट टू नो किसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है, जिसके ऊपर जीएसटी है, किसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है. एजुकेशन सर्विसेज, हेल्थ केयर, इनके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगता है. ओके. नाउ शेड्यूल 1, what we wanted to discuss, what are the activities covered under schedule 1. Schedule 1 में these activities are covered. Activities which are without consideration, इसके ऊपर जीएसटी लगेगा. परमानेंट ट्रांसफर और डिस्पोजल ऑफ असेट्स, तो परमानेंट ट्रांसफर और डिस्पोजल ऑफ असेट्स पे जीएसटी लगेगा, राइट. बट क्या कंडीशंस है? डिस्पोजल और ट्रांसफर ऑफ बिजनेस असेट्स मींस इट शुड हैव यूज्ड फॉर द बिजनेस, एंड ट्रांसफर मस्ट बी परमानेंट, नॉट लाइक आई गिव अ टेम्पररी सेल, give it and take it back. That is not treated as disposal. On that is not treated as disposal. The transfer or disposal must be permanent. ITC must have been aware and on such business asset, which means if I have bought some asset on which GST credit is not available, then if I sell it, or if I sell it without consideration, then on that GST will not be paid because I have not claimed the ITC. The question of payment of GST on disposal arises. This third condition is very important. ITC must have been claimed. अगर मैं input tax credit लेता हूं तभी output के ऊपर GST पे करूंगा. If I have not taken ITC, take an example on what ITC is not available. I bought a car. Now, if I buy a car, even if it is for business purposes exclusively for transportation of employees, still there is a concept of blocked credit on block credit items, I don't get the GST input tax credit. So when I buy a car on that, I don't claim the input tax credit. Now, if this car I sell, okay, if I sell for a value, तो फिर sale consideration हो गया, that will not come here. जो भी मैं sale consideration कर रहा हूँ उसके ऊपर GST तो लगेगा. But if I dispose of this car without consideration, then I don't have to pay any GST because I've not claimed any input tax credit. Clear? Understand the difference. If I sell some assets for a consideration, then I will not come here itself, because what is the schedule? This is activities without consideration. So if I buy a business asset and sell it with consideration, then GST is definitely applicable. But if I buy something and I sell it without consideration, okay, if I sell it without consideration, then only this will come. And this condition is important. ITC must have been availed. ITC is availed and I've disposed it of. Still no, ITC is availed and I've disposed it of, then GST is applicable. But if ITC is not availed, I have not claimed the input tax credit when I purchased, then I don't have to pay GST on the sale. Okay. Then supply between related persons or distinct persons. So any supply between related or distinct persons, it should be made in the course of furtherance of business. Means any stock transfer, I've said, distinct person wo ho gaya. Yeah, any transaction between related persons, if I do anything without consideration, that is also treated as supply. Then principal agar agent ko supply karta hai, only supply of goods and not supply of services. Principal to agent, agar some goods they supply, then GST is applicable. Then importation of services. So importation of services दो जगह पे आ जाता है. In 7 also और यहाँ पे भी आ जाता है. Importation of services without consideration वहाँ पे नहीं बोलता है. 7(2) में क्या बोलता है? Importation of services for personal use. But here it says importation of services without consideration. But from whom? Only if it is from a related persons or establishments located outside India. It should be a related party. जब एक head office, branch office होता है. Okay, in that case, importation of services, if they do between related persons, then GST is applicable even if there is no consideration. Be careful, the schedule is only in cases of without consideration cases. So can you explain, due to GST on normal consumer gets burden of tax or not, how it reduces the expense of items? So normal consumer gets taxed, but the input tax credit chain works in such a way that the value of the goods itself gets reduced. So if the value of the goods gets reduced, then the tax also will get reduced, because tax is a proportion of the value of the goods. So if I'm getting some credit, I will sell it at a lower price. So that's how the GST will reduce the cost of the products. It's the frequency, volume, contingency, or regularity is not a prerequisite, but in case of Mahima sold or gold, will come into business? No, because the frequency, volume has to be looked into the perspective of business. Is she using it for business? Is she trading into that, or just her old thing is selling it off? So if it's a personal asset, then on the GST will not come. What is distinct person? Distinct person is defined as any person who is registered within the state, or any person, any transaction between one state to another state between the having a same PAN. So branch office, head office are all treated as distinct persons. So I have an asset. What is the example of disposal? Please explain. I have an asset. Now I'm disposing it off or giving it off to an NGO. This is an example of disposal because I'm disposing it off and I'm not getting any consideration for that. That is the example of disposal. How to say this section? Is it section 7, subclause, subsection 1, clause C? Yes, section 1, section 7, subsection 1, clause C. Yes, these are all exceptions to consideration. Repeat 4A point, importation of services. Importation of services without consideration will still be liable to GST if I do importation from a related person or an establishment located outside India. Means if I'm doing any importation of services from another entity if it is without consideration. So if I do it for business and if I import something and they're giving me free of charge, then no GST, correct? But if they're giving it free of cost, but that company which is giving me is my parent company or just somehow related, we'll come to the definition of related persons. If they are related to me, holding subsidiary or common holding company, if I do some transaction from my related parties, then GST will apply. I have to pay GST on reverse charge basis. Clear, Ikrar? Please repeat point 1, part C. ITC must have been availed. So permanent transfer or disposal of assets with the condition that ITC has been availed on such assets. Matlab, input tax credit, I should have claimed on that purchase. If I've claimed input tax credit on that purchase, then when I sell, even without consideration, GST will apply. But if I've not at all claimed the input tax credit, then on the sale, GST will not apply. If I import jewelry from my cousin brother with or without consideration, so if I import with consideration, दोनों के ऊपर jewelry के ऊपर GST लगेगा, because this condition, what I'm saying is import of services, not import of goods. So import of goods, आप either consideration पे करो या without consideration, customs तो लगेगा. जब customs लगेगा तब GST भी लगेगा, because clearance जब करते हैं customs officer will charge GST, will charge customs as well as GST. 1C हिंदी में बता दो, ठीक है? तो 1C का पॉइंट क्या है कि मैंने इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट क्लेम कर लिया. जब मैं परचेज करता हूं तब उसके ऊपर जीएसटी लगता है. अब उस जीएसटी को मैंने इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट क्लेम कर दिया है जब भी मैंने परचेज किया है, और अगर आज मैं उसको सेल करता हूं विदाउट कंसिडरेशन, तब सेल के ऊपर भी जीएसटी लगेगा. लेकिन जब मैं इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट क्लेम ही नहीं किया, क्यों नहीं करूंगा? थोड़े गुड्स हैं जिसके ऊपर आप क्रेडिट क्लेम नहीं कर सकते हो. एक अच्छा एग्जांपल है कार. आप कार बिजनेस के लिए परचेज करो या किसी के लिए परचेज करो, कार के ऊपर आपको क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा. तो जब मैंने कार परचेज किया तो क्रेडिट नहीं मिला, और अगर आज मैं उसको डिस्पोज कर देता हूं तो उसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. दैट इज पॉइंट 1C. प्लीज रिपीट सप्लाई बिटवीन रिलेटेड पर्संस एंड डिस्टिंक्ट पर्संस. रिलेटेड पर्संस एंड डिस्टिंक्ट पर्संस के बाद जो भी आप ट्रांजैक्शन करते हो, इट शुड बी इन द कोर्स ऑफ फर्दरेंस ऑफ बिजनेस, तब जीएसटी लगेगा. एंड प्रिंसिपल और एजेंट, पॉइंट नंबर 3, any transaction of goods between a principal and agent or an agent to principal is liable to GST. Okay. Now we'll move to related persons definition. What is related persons? Okay. Persons simple है, इसमें कुछ ये करने की जरूरत नहीं, बस इसको याद करना है. Such persons are officers or directors of one another business. Okay. Officers or directors of एक दूसरे के business में है, या persons are legally recognized partners in business. दो partners हैं, इनके बीच में जो भी transaction होगा, that is treated as transaction between related persons. Such persons are employer and employee of the company. So employer employee के between जो transaction रहेगा, that is also liable to GST. Then any person directly or indirectly owns, controls or holds 25% or more of the outstanding voting stock or shares. मतलब एक कंपनी है, उसका आप 25% शेयर होल्डिंग हो तो आप रिलेटेड पर्सन हो. और शेयर होल्डिंग नहीं है लेकिन आपके पास वोटिंग राइट्स है, बिकॉज देयर आर कॉन्सेप्ट की आपके पास शेयर नहीं है फिर भी आपको वोटिंग राइट ज्यादा मिल सकता है. डिफरेंशियल वोटिंग राइट्स होते हैं. जब आप एक्स्ट्रा वोटिंग राइट्स हो और वो वोटिंग राइट्स है विच इज मोर देन 25%, देन ऑल्सो यू आर रिलेटेड पर्सन. तो थ्रेशोल्ड है वहां पे मोर देन 25%. One of them directly or indirectly controls the other. So by way of giving loan. So when a bank gives a loan, okay, it says that we have to appoint one director in your board of directors, क्योंकि what is transaction happening, मुझे कुछ चाहिए. So they will directly or indirectly control the business. ठीक है, ताकि कुछ गलत काम ना कर सके. So then that becomes a related party. Both of them are directly or indirectly controlled by a third person. एक कंपनी है या एक ग्रुप ऑफ कंपनीज है जो दो कंपनीज को कंट्रोल करता है, then these two companies will become related persons. Then together they directly or indirectly control a third person. दो लोग मिलके एक जॉइंट वेंचर बनाते हैं या दो लोग मिलके एक थर्ड कंपनी को कंट्रोल करते हैं, then these two persons are treated as related persons. और दे आर मेंबर्स ऑफ द सेम फैमिली, एक ही फैमिली के मेंबर्स हैं, तब भी रिलेटेड पर्सन्स में कहा जाएगा. व्हाई दिस रिलेटेड पर्सन्स इज इंपॉर्टेंट? अपने शेड्यूल 1 में देखा है हमने, सेइंग दैट एनी सप्लाई बिटवीन रिलेटेड पर्सन्स इज विदाउट कंसिडरेशन के ऊपर भी जीएसटी लगेगा. Supply between related or distinct persons, what does it say? Registration is a basic understanding कि मैंने बता दिया है, if you register within one state and take one registration, then any supply between these two is not treated as a supply between distinct persons. But if you supply to another state, whether registered or no, it will be treated as a distinct persons. So you have an option to take registration within a state, one registration या multiple registration. आपके पास 10 branches हैं, आप 10 ब्रांचेस के लिए अलग से जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन ले सकते हो या 10 ही ब्रांचेस का मिला के एक रजिस्ट्रेशन ले सकते हो. ओके, देन डिस्टिंक्ट पर्सन्स, द एस्टैब्लिशमेंट ऑफ अ पर्सन विद सेपरेट रजिस्ट्रेशन वेदर विद इन द सेम स्टेट और यूनियन टेरिटरी और इन डिफरेंट स्टेट और यूनियन टेरिटरी आर कंसिडर्ड एज डिस्टिंक्ट पर्सन्स. ठीक है, द एस्टैब्लिशमेंट विद सेपरेट रजिस्ट्रेशन है, so then they are distinct persons. Now, when a person having a registered establishment in one state or union territory has another establishment in another state, whether it is registered or no, or treated as establishment of distinct persons. So establishment distinct persons is within the state having separate registrations, and establishment of distinct persons having registration in one state and having branches in other states, they are treated as establishment of distinct persons. Okay. Then stock transfers between distinct persons qualify as supplies, but stock transfers within the same state will not be considered as supply if it has one registration. Okay. Supply of goods or services between employer and employee is considered as supply because employer and employee का हमने देखा है schedule 3 में है, but exception is gifts by employer to employee up to rupees 50,000 is exempted. ठीक है, शेड्यूल 3 में हम देखेंगे कि which is treated as not a supply, not a supply of goods, not supply of services. उसमें बोलता है if you supply up to 50,000 rupees, then उसके ऊपर GST नहीं लगेगा. But employer we said that it is a related person, correct? Because इस slide में हमने देखा है when persons are employee and employee, मतलब जो भी transactions रहेगा उसके ऊपर चार्ज लगेगा. मतलब क्या सैलरी के ऊपर GST लगेगा? नहीं, सैलरी के ऊपर GST नहीं लगा है because it's not a supply. But अगर कुछ भी consideration, gift something कुछ देते हैं, then GST will be applicable because it is over and above the employment. There is a cap saying that up to 50,000 का आप gift देते हो per year, तो फिर GST नहीं लगेगा. ठीक है? Yeah, let's take up questions here. If I transfer my business assets from business 1 to business 2, so there is an exemption again there, wherein if I do a business transfer of say whole business, then GST is not applicable. Whole business has to be transferred, including assets and liabilities, then GST is not applicable. एक्टर्स को फीस पे इनकम टैक्स और जीएसटी दोनों देना पड़ेगा. हाँ, हर किसी को ऐसे ही होता है ना, बिकॉज इफ यू आर प्रोवाइडिंग एनी सर्विस यू हैव टू पे जीएसटी. जीएसटी इज नॉट योर कॉस्ट, सामने वाला आपको देगा, और जो भी आपका प्रॉफिट रहेगा उसके ऊपर इनकम टैक्स पे करना पड़ेगा. सो देयर आर टू एस्पेक्ट्स. वन इज सप्लाई एस्पेक्ट, सप्लाई के ऊपर मैं जीएसटी चार्ज कर रहा हूँ, और जो मैं इनकम अर्न कर रहा हूँ उसके ऊपर इनकम टैक्स पे कर रहा हूँ. इट इज नॉट डबल टैक्सेशन, क्योंकि सप्लाई जब मैं करता हूँ, सप्लाई के ऊपर मैं जीएसटी चार्ज करता हूँ, और जब मैं इनकम अर्न करता हूँ उसके ऊपर इनकम टैक्स पे करता हूँ. सो डोंट थिंक इट्स अ डबल टैक्सेशन. In disposal case, if I have ITC available in my credit ledger, so GST will be chargeable on dispose. Yes, on that asset if you have claimed, not just if it is lying in your credit ledger. On that purchase, if you have claimed the ITC, only then on the supply without consideration, GST will apply. Why supply between person without consideration is chargeable to GST? Because related persons में क्या होता है, generally consideration नहीं होता है. So not to escape GST, for that reason they've said any supply between related persons is chargeable to GST. Why securities are out of GST? Because they've said why money is outside GST. Similarly, that reason securities is outside GST, because securities are not goods. Securities is stocks. stocks, shares, all of this, it is equivalent to transaction in money. So that's the reason on that GST is not charged. $50,000 up to 1 financial year? Yes, 50,000 up to 1 financial year. Could service be considered as gift? Yeah, service also without consideration would be treated as gift, as would be treated as gift, because gift could not necessarily of goods, gift could be of services also. If assets getting disposed to NGO, GST is liable. Yes, if you have claimed the credit, then GST will be liable. Vice versa क्या है? If I sell to you and you sell back to me, that is an example of vice versa. Perquisite visit taxable? No, perquisites are in the nature of employment itself. So instead of giving salary, I agree that I will give you some portion of salary and some portion as perquisite. So any perquisites given on that salary, it will be treated as salary itself, because on perquisites also you are deducting TDS. Correct? So income tax says that even on perquisites you have to deduct TDS. So perquisites is equivalent to salary itself. If gift exceeds 50,000, what will be the taxable amount? If they're not very clear on this, so they've just said gifts by employer to employee up to 50,000 in a financial year. So if it crosses 50,000, the whole value could be liable to tax, because it's not a threshold limit, right? It says gift by employer to employee up to 50,000 in a year. So two stands can be possible, that whatever excess I pay on that, I will reduce 50,000 and pay it. Other stand could be that I will have to pay on the whole value. According to me, you can take the limit of 50,000, saying that up to 50,000 I'll not pay, on the excess amount only I'll pay GST. Mergers and acquisition, no GST. Yeah, mergers and acquisition, no GST, because you're selling the business completely. Correct. Employees can take 50,000 gift up to 1 year. किसी एम्प्लॉय का सैलरी अप टू 50,000 है और कंपनी सैलरी को गिफ्ट शो कर रहा है, तो फिर वो जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. अगर सैलरी को गिफ्ट दे रहा है, दैट विल बी इम्प्रैक्टिकल. मतलब गिफ्ट सैलरी नहीं दे रहा है, सिर्फ गिफ्ट दे रहा है, वो तो ठीक नहीं रहेगा. सैलरी भी देगा और गिफ्ट दे रहा है, तब ये पॉइंट आता है. If I purchase goods in Dubai and bring it to India, whether GST is liable? Yes, GST is liable. If I transfer one asset from one business to another unit, then GST is liable? Yes, GST is liable. When will be taxable amount? If amount exceeds 50,000, I am saying that excess amount will only be taxable. On any business asset, can I claim both depreciation ITC? No, I cannot claim both. If I'm claiming depreciation, then on that portion, I cannot claim ITC. And if I'm not claiming depreciation, then I can claim ITC on the depreciation value also. How gifts can be taxed? Gifts are taxable because it is a transaction of Schedule 1, so that is taxable. If employer and employee relationship of gift more than 50,000, who will pay tax? The supplier. So the company is giving gift to the employee. So he is supplying, the company will pay GST on that. Bonus salary? No. Salary, bonus salaries, bonus, perquisites, all of this are part of salary. On that, GST is not applicable. If gifts by employer to employee, is it example of RCM? No, because I am supplying something. So I will pay GST on that. Yeah, it could be treated as a reverse charge mechanism thing also. बोनस के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है. Distinct persons means I have a branch here and I have a branch in Kolkata. So if I have a branch here and I have a branch in Kolkata, they are distinct persons. So if I supply anything goods from here and if I don't charge anything, still on that GST will apply. And another example of distinct is I have a branch in Bangalore and I have a branch in Mysore. दोनों का अलग registration है. Then even though it is same person, but since different registration ले लिया, so it becomes a distinct person. So supply from Bangalore to Mysore is liable to GST. That is example of distinct person. Yeah, in case of gifts amounting to 1 lakh, GST is taxable on whole 1 lakh or 50,000. I think it is 50,000. Why there is no GST on export? Because the government, every government wants to promote exports. So on export, there is no GST. Okay. If bonus to employee be treated as gift, no. Bonus is treated as salary. It is not treated as a gift. What if a high value asset like car to individual? So if I am supplying car, then I will pay GST on that because I am supplying, correct? Okay. So let's take a break of 10 minutes and we'll come back and discuss this further. Okay, thank you. So questions, Galore. You said on car we cannot claim ITC for business purpose of transportation. Okay, but we can claim ITC on repair. नहीं, if car के ऊपर नहीं है तो उसके repairs और maintenance के ऊपर भी आपको credit नहीं मिलेगा. So you'll not get credit on that. GST के ऊपर numeric questions आते हैं. Full numeric ही आएंगे आपको, theoretical कम आएंगे. In problem solving, all of this will get translated and given to you in numbers to understand. But concepts is what you have to understand. The main objective of me taking up so much time in teaching the theory is the concepts will be in theory. If I give you the numbers directly, you'll get confused. So if your basic concepts are strong, then numbers tracking can become easier. That's the reason we are teaching all the theories now. If gifting as money or any asset, like vehicle, is GST is applicable? Yes, then GST will apply, no? Because Schedule 1, it says any transaction between related persons. So employer and employees are related persons. And then it says Schedule 3 up to 50,000. So you have to read it harmoniously. If I give a gift to an employee, I don't take consideration. Still GST is applicable. From that, I will reduce 50,000 rupees and pay on the balance value GST. Is GST is applicable on honorarium paid? On honorarium, it is like a salary, I would say. So it will be treated in par with salary. So according to me, on honorarium, GST will not apply. So if company wants common registration of branches situated in different states, that will not be possible because you can take registration, common registration for all the branches in one state. You cannot take for one branch in Karnataka or one branch in Tamil Nadu. You cannot take one registration for different states together. So like in service tax, we had the concept of centralized registration. That concept is not there under GST. So each state, you have to take a separate registration. Gifting double tax? No, not double tax. Just that when you purchase something, you've got the full credit. And when you sell it, you should get the credit. If you don't sell, you have to pay the tax. That's the concept. Okay. Now we'll get into the circulars, which has clarified few things. One is principal and agent. When you said supply of goods by a principal to an agent without consideration, where the agent undertakes to supply goods on behalf of the principal is considered as a supply. Okay. So if I supply goods by the principal to his agent without consideration, and then the agent undertakes to supply such goods on behalf of the principal. So if I supply, an agent says, I will sell it, you don't bother. And he has a straight invoice for that, then it will not be treated. The condition is supply of goods by a principal to agent without consideration, where the supply undertakes to supply, the agent undertakes to supply the goods on behalf of the principal is considered as a supply. And reverse. So when the agent also supplies to the principal and the principal says, I will use it on my name, then GST is applicable. Okay. So only supply of goods, not supply of services. Then the deciding factor. Now, how do we understand this? There is a circular in this which clearly, very beautifully explains this, where the invoice for the further supply of goods on behalf of the principal is being issued by the agent or not. That will be the deciding principle. Invoice for further supply is being issued by the agent in his name. Okay. If it is issued in his name, then it will fall under para 3. Then it will be a supply. But if the invoice is issued by the agent to the customer in the name of principal, that is, he is selling as though the principal has supplied, not on a separate invoice of the agent. Principal's invoice itself is using it, then it does not fall under para 3. It is not a supply. So very, very confusing principal and agent transaction. But you understand, अगर मैं independently purchase करता हूँ, okay, और principal को बोलता हूँ, मैं क्या भी rate पे बेचूंगा, तुमको कुछ मतलब नहीं है. ठीक है, मेरा इनवॉइस मैं चढ़ाऊंगा, देन जीएसटी उसके ऊपर लगेगा. ठीक है, क्योंकि इट्स एन सप्लाई, इनवॉइस सप्लाइड बाय हिज ओन इनवॉइस. लेकिन प्रिंसिपल का इनवॉइस लेके मैं बेचता हूं तो मैं उसका एजेंट, प्योर एजेंट हो गया हूं. दैट ऑन दैट इट विल बी नॉट अ सप्लाई. समझे आप? Then goods procured by the agent on behalf of the principal are invoiced in the name of agent, then it will be supply. But if they are invoiced in the name of principal, और मैं सिर्फ purchase कर रहा हूँ on the behalf of principal, तो फिर सप्लाई नहीं है। क्लियर? सो हाउ डू यू ट्रांजैक्ट इट? द प्रिंसिपल का एजेंट का रिलेशनशिप क्या है कि तुम मेरे बिहाफ पे काम कर रहे हो. इफ यू आर डूइंग द बिजनेस ऑन माई बिहाफ, देन यू हैव टू यूज माई name, my GST number and everything. So then it is my supply through you on that. So whenever I supply anything to you free of charge, that will be treated as not a supply. But if I supply to and you supply the customer in your own invoice, okay, then it is a supply transaction between me and the agent. Clear with this? If gift is of 60,000, GST will be applied on 10 or 60. Gift, if it is 60,000, GST will apply on 10,000. Clear on principal and agent? It depends on what is the relationship between me and the agent. Is it pure agent or is it not a pure agent? Okay. Principal agent, one more time. Yes, Sapna, for benefit of everyone. If the principal supplies any goods to the agent and agent sells it in his invoice, then this transaction between principal and agent is treated as supply if it is for without consideration. But if principal supply to the agent and agent gives an invoice to its customers in the name of principal itself, okay, then it is not treated as a supply because I am selling or he's selling, it is same. Okay, because he is using my invoice, so it's like equivalent to a transfer. On that, GST will not apply. Okay. Okay, Ramchandra, a question on honorarium paid to outside the employees. Outside the employees, yeah, then it will be treated as a professional service. On that, GST will apply. स्टॉक के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है, स्टॉक्स के ऊपर जीएसटी है. द स्टॉक इज योर क्लोजिंग स्टॉक. आप जो ट्रेडिंग करते हो वो स्टॉक, और जो सिक्योरिटीज में हम स्टॉक बोलते हैं वो है शेयर्स स्टॉक. ठीक है, जॉइंट स्टॉक कंपनी जो बोलते हैं, दैट इज अ डिफरेंट स्टॉक. डोंट गेट कंफ्यूज्ड विद दिस स्टॉक एंड दैट स्टॉक. तो सिक्योरिटीज की डेफिनेशन में आता है शेयर स्टॉक, दैट इज अ डिफरेंट स्टॉक. और हम जो स्टॉक डिस्कस कर रहे हैं प्रणव, दैट इज आपका बिजनेस, आपका असेट्स, आपका जो मूविंग स्टॉक है, जो जिस गुड्स की आप डील करते हैं उसे स्टॉक कहते हैं. ठीक है. If invoice issued by agent on behalf of the principal, then it's supply of principal or no, then it is not a supply of principal. ठीक है. Now del credar agent, प्रिंसिपल एजेंट का एक और वेरिएशन है डेल क्रेडार एजेंट. डेल क्रेडार एजेंट क्या करता है कि आई विल बी अ एजेंट, but I will also give you additional facilities. I will ensure that मैं जिसको सप्लाई कर रहा हूं, he will make the payment to you. ठीक है. जनरली एजेंट्स क्या लेते हैं, थोड़ा कमीशन लेते हैं, बट डेल क्रेडार एजेंट विल टेक एक्स्ट्रा कमीशन बिकॉज ही गारंटीज पेमेंट टू द सप्लायर. और इसमें अलग अलग वेरिएशंस आ गए. अगेन इसमें सर्कुलर है कि डेल क्रेडार एजेंट विल पे द प्रिंसिपल इफ द बायर डिफॉल्ट्स ऑन ड्यू डेट. Whether del credar agent will fall under para 3. Now, first is you have to decide based on the previous circular whether he raises invoice on the principal's name or he raises invoice in his own name. Then, now sometimes interest is being charged by the del credar agent for short-term loan is to be included in the value of supply by the principal when del credar agent is not an agent under part 3. अगर ये agent नहीं है तो फिर interest जो charge करते हैं उसको include करना है या नहीं करना है. Generally, what happens when I supply anything and if I charge interest for delayed payment, okay, that will also be included in the value of supply because there is a there is a concept of composite supply. Composite supply मतलब जब मैं मेन सप्लाई करता हूँ उसका जो एंसिलरी सप्लाईज है उसको भी मुझे जीएसटी मेन सप्लाई के वैल्यू में ऐड करना है. जैसे एयर कंडीशनिंग का एग्जांपल दिया मैंने. जब मैं एयर कंडीशन सप्लाई करता हूँ और उसका इंस्टॉलेशन भी सप्लाई करता हूँ, बट इंस्टॉलेशन इज एन इंटीग्रल पार्ट ऑफ द एयर कंडीशनर. तो एयर कंडीशनर अगर 5% है और इंस्टॉलेशन सर्विसेज है उसके ऊपर 18% है, तो मैं 5% और 18% अलग से चार्ज नहीं करूंगा, फुल वैल्यू के ऊपर 5% चार्ज करूंगा. दैट इज एग्जांपल ऑफ कॉम्पोजिट सप्लाई. तो जब मैं कॉम्पोजिट सप्लाई प्रोवाइड करता हूं, सो द इंटरेस्ट व्हाट आई चार्ज फॉर लेट पेमेंट दैट आल्सो बिकम्स पार्ट ऑफ द मेन सप्लाई, सो आई हैव टू इंक्लूड इट. Now, in this case, whether interest which is charged by del credar agent for short-term loan, or del credar agent का responsibility है कि he's taken that the customer has to pay it on time. Now, customer says I don't have money, so he will grant a loan to the customer and say you pay it ताकि मेरा commission secure हो जाए. Now, when he is charging that interest, will it include in the supply? It says no, because supply of goods is by the principal to recipient. Agency service is del credar agent to seller or buyer. एंड लोन सर्विस, ये जो लोन दे रहा है वो इंडिपेंडेंट सर्विस हो गया, तो इसीलिए ये जो इंटरेस्ट है उसको आप प्रिंसिपल सप्लाई में ऐड नहीं करोगे. ठीक है. नाउ टेक अनदर इंस्टेंस वेयर del credar agent is an agent and makes payment on behalf of buyer and charges interest to buyer. Will supply value has to be increased? Yes, because supply of goods is by principal to del credar agent and supply of goods by del credar agent to principal. ठीक है. When del credar agent is an agent, अगर वो agent है, ठीक है, तो this principal and agent becomes a independent supply. ठीक है. And interest he will pay to the supplier, then it has to be added. And the loan service by the del credar to the buyer. ठीक है. Because agency service is by del credar agent to seller or buyer and supply of goods is by del credar agent to buyer. So whatever interest is being charged, okay, and by the supplier, then it will get included. Because he is making payment on behalf of the customer and he does not grant any loan to the customer. So there's a difference here. Yes, there is a difference between del credar agent. I mean, del credar agent provides any major additional service that normal agent does not provide. Yes, he ensures that the customer pays to the, if the customer doesn't pay, then I will pay to the supplier. That's the concept of del credar agent. Okay, importation of service, there are various confusions here. So to clarify, just see this chart. Importation of service, if there is a consideration, then क्या होगा? If consideration is there and it is in the course of business, तो दोनों conditions meet हो गए. Where consideration is there and it is in the course of furtherance of business, both the conditions are satisfied. Taxable, clear. But importation of services where consideration is present, not in the course of furtherance of business, still it is taxable. Q 7(1)(b). Fine. 7(1)(b) says that it is taxable. Then importation of services, consideration is also not present and it is, but it is in the course of furtherance of business. Then will it be taxable? Yes, it will be taxable because Schedule 1 4th point we have read that it is taxable. But from whom? If it is from a related person or establishment located outside India. If it is from a related person or establishment located outside India, तभी ये importation taxable है. If it is from any other person जो मेरे को consideration charge नहीं करता है, then it will not be liable to GST. ठीक है. Importation of services, consideration is not present and it is not in the course of furtherance of business, then it is not taxable. Clear? तो एक condition meet होना चाहिए that consideration should be present and if it is for personal use, still taxable. And when a case of consideration not present, but it is in the use in the course of furtherance of business, it will still be taxable only if it is from a related person or establishment located outside India. ये चार्ट आपको बुक में नहीं मिलेगा, so please understand the subtle difference here. del credar agent को हिंदी में बोलते हैं del credar agent, उसका ट्रांसलेशन मुझे नहीं पता है. बेसिकली वो एजेंट जो एक्स्ट्रा सर्विस प्रोवाइड करता है उसे del credar agent बोलते हैं, जो आपको कस्टमर से पैसा वसूली करने की जरूरत नहीं है. ये एजेंट ही आपको अश्योरेंस देता है कि मैं कस्टमर से आपको पैसे दे दूंगा, वरना अगर वो पे नहीं किया तो मैं आपको पे कर दूंगा. दिस इज अ del credar agent. The fourth point, if it is related person, if it is related person and if it is not in the course of furtherance of business, still not taxable because the consideration should be present. And if it is not in the course of furtherance of business, personal use के लिए है, still not taxable, even if it is from a related person. Because Schedule 1 says it should be from a related person and it should be in the course of furtherance of business. Both the conditions are there. तो इसीलिए third point में cover हो जाएगा. अगर fourth point में related person से, still not taxable. पीडीएफ नोट्स, यस पीडीएफ नोट्स मिल जाएगा आपको, ये प्रेजेंटेशन अपलोड हो जाएगा। 7(1)(b and Schedule 1 ITC cannot be claimed. No such restriction. 7(1)(b है, still ITC can be claimed, and not ITC. And even Schedule 1 ITC can be claimed. Tax treatment is same. Yeah, tax treatment is same in both the cases. So what we have discussed is only the interest component, whether it will be included or not. Great. Supplies without consideration, we have said that Schedule 1, where even if no consideration, it will be considered as a supply. So sales promotion schemes are not liable to GST. Yes, it is not liable to GST because consideration is not there. And free samples do not quantify as supply. But sales promotion या free samples में जो cases होते हैं, you have to keep in mind is inputs needs to be reversed. क्योंकि हमने कहा supply should be with consideration. In case of free samples, there is no consideration. So will I not pay GST? Yes, you will not pay GST, but the respective input tax credit has to be reversed. Similarly, what happens? There is buy one get one schemes. तो एक free हो गया ना, so should I reverse the GST? नहीं. The stand is it will be treated as a composite supply क्योंकि pricing जो है आप adjust कर लोगे. एक का प्राइस जो है वही चार्ज कर लोगे दोनों के लिए, सो इट बी हाफ ऑफ कंसिडरेशन. अगर बाय वन गेट वन है तो उसके ऊपर आपको रिवर्स करने की जरूरत नहीं है बिकॉज देयर इज अ कंसिडरेशन फॉर वन, अदर्स का भी उसमें समावेश हो जाएगा. ठीक है. 7(1)(a, which is a classification schedule, says that GST is one tax for all, but the rate of goods and services is different. Hence, it becomes important to distinguish between goods and services. So Schedule 2 आपके लिए नहीं है, but just I'm explaining कि क्या होता है Schedule 2 में. Rate on job work of a product. If service, the rate is 12%, 18%, but the rate on steel of goods is 12%. मतलब मैं स्टील का पाइप्स लेता हूँ, स्टील का मैन्युफैक्चरर से लेता हूँ और उसका कुछ एक्टिविटी करता हूँ एज अ जॉब वर्कर. ठीक है, उस बिकॉज रॉ स्टील जो होता है उसको मेरे को बहुत सारे ड्रिलिंग वगैरह करने पड़ते हैं. नाउ दिस ड्रिलिंग एक्टिविटी इज अ जॉब वर्क सर्विस. सो जॉब वर्क ऑन गुड्स, गुड्स मुझे दे रहा है मैन्युफैक्चरर, द प्रिंसिपल गिव्स मी द गुड्स, आई डू द जॉब वर्क एंड गिव इट बैक टू देम. ठीक है, सो इज इट ट्रीटेड एज गुड्स? नहीं, इट बी ट्रीटेड एज सर्विस बिकॉज ही इज गिविंग मी टू डू सम एक्टिविटी. सो स्टील के ऊपर 12% लगेगा लेकिन मेरे जॉब वर्क के ऊपर 18% लगेगा. दैट्स द रीजन इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू डिस्टिंग्विश बिटवीन गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज. ऐसा नहीं हो जाएगा कि कल फिर आप सर्विसेज का रेट नहीं करोगे तो फिर स्टील का जो 12% है दैट विल बी एप्लीकेबल फॉर जॉब वर्क. दैट इज इनकरेक्ट. सो जॉब वर्क इज अ सेपरेट सर्विस दैट विल बी चार्ज एट 18%. Restaurants used to charge VAT and service tax under earlier regime. So there was a lot of confusion. That's the reason now there is a distinction between what is goods and what is services. Now, taxability of tenancy rights under GST. Now, क्या होता है? I have a tenancy right. ठीक है, I have a land or I have a building. Now मैं rent पे देता हूँ. अब उसके ऊपर मेरे पास बहुत सारे rights हैं. I said no. In our case of a immovable property, I have various rights. I have a right of possession. I have a right of control. I have a right of exclusion. मतलब कोई भी मेरे premises में enter नहीं हो सकता है. Right to derive income. I can give it for rent and get income. और a right of disposition में उसको sale भी कर सकता हूँ. So there are various rights under a landowner's thing. Now activity of transfer of tenancy rights. मतलब एक right जो है वो tenancy rights है. This tenancy rights अगेंस्ट कंसिडरेशन इज सप्लाई. बिकॉज मैं जहां पे रेंट कलेक्ट करता हूं मैं बोलता हूं मैं रेंट नहीं करूंगा. ठीक है, दिस प्रॉपर्टी स्टिल बिलोंग्स टू मी. नाउ टेनेंसी राइट्स में किसी को पास ऑन कर दूंगा. ठीक है, अगेंस्ट दिस टेनेंसी राइट पास ऑन जो कर रहा हूं मैं, ग्रांट ऑफ टेनेंसी राइट इन रेसिडेंशियल ड्वेलिंग इज सरेंडरिंग द टेनेंसी राइट फॉर कंसिडरेशन इज लायबल फॉर जीएसटी. टेनेंट के साथ जो मैं रेंट कलेक्ट कर रहा हूं, अगर ये रेसिडेंशियल प्रॉपर्टी है तो रेसिडेंशियल प्रॉपर्टी ऊपर जीएसटी लगेगा? नहीं लगेगा. जब आप घर का भाड़ा भरते हो कभी आप जीएसटी भरे हो? नहीं भरे हो, क्योंकि रेसिडेंशियल रेंट के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है, कमर्शियल रेंट के ऊपर जीएसटी है. नाउ ओनर जो है टेनेंट के साथ कर रहा है, अब उसके पास बहुत सारी प्रॉपर्टीज है, तो क्या बोलता है कि टेनेंसी राइट्स में किसी को बेच देता हूँ अगेंस्ट अ ह्यूज कंसिडरेशन. उसे पगड़ी कहते हैं कि एक ही साथ में मेरा जो राइट है कलेक्शन का मैं किसी और को ट्रांसफर कर रहा हूँ. इवन इफ इट इज फॉर रेसिडेंशियल राइट, जो मैं किसी को राइट ट्रांसफर कर रहा हूं उसके ऊपर जीएसटी लगेगा. So this is what is the circular saying कि टेनेंसी राइट्स के ऊपर या पगड़ी जो सेल करते हो उसके ऊपर जो आपको कंसिडरेशन मिलेगा इवन इफ इट इज फॉर रेसिडेंशियल रेंट जीएसटी लगेगा. ठीक है. GST on restaurant removed? No, GST on restaurant is taxable. It is taxable as supply of service. So when you eat food, is it goods or service? You go enjoy the ambience and everything, right? So that's why reason GST पे restaurant या कुछ भी हम खाना खाते हैं तो 5% GST लगता है. Rates are fixed. Yes, rate for goods are fixed. तो आपका शेड्यूल आएगा, रेट का शेड्यूल आएगा और सर्विसेज का रेट का भी अलग से शेड्यूल आएगा. उन दैट दे विल डिफाइन व्हाट इज द रेट ऑन व्हाट प्रोडक्ट, व्हाट इज द रेट ऑन व्हाट सर्विस. नॉन सप्लाईज अंडर जीएसटी. नाउ अभी हमने देखा है कि शेड्यूल 3. सो देयर आर वेरियस टाइप्स ऑफ शेड्यूल 3 आइटम्स. नाउ नॉन सप्लाईज कैन बी अंडर 3 कैटेगरीज, शेड्यूल 3 या फिर नोटिफिकेशन और क्लैरिफिकेशन. शेड्यूल 3 क्या बोलता है? Schedule 3 says on these following items there is no GST. Employee to employer, of course, exemption up to 50,000 rupees. उसके ऊपर so basically employee to employer के ऊपर GST नहीं लगेगा. Salary के ऊपर GST नहीं है. Court or tribunal, कोर्ट और ट्राइब्यूनल जो भी सर्विस प्रोवाइड करते हो, कोर्ट फीस हम लोग पे करते हैं, उसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है. फंक्शंस परफॉर्म बाय एमएलए, एमपी एक्सेट्रा. देन फ्यूनरल, बरियल और क्रेमेटोरियम, ठीक है, उसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. सेल ऑफ लैंड सब्जेक्ट टू शेड्यूल 2(5)(b) बिल्डिंग, मतलब जो लैंड है उसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा, लेकिन बिल्डिंग जो बन रहा है क्योंकि वो शेड्यूल 2 में क्लासिफाइड है, अगर बिल्डिंग बन रहा है जहां पे ऑक्यूपेंसी सर्टिफिकेट नहीं मिला है तब तक जीएसटी लगेगा. अगर बिल्डिंग बन चुका है और ऑक्यूपेंसी सर्टिफिकेट गवर्नमेंट से आ गया, मतलब इट इज फिट फॉर लिविंग, तो फिर वो इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी हो गया, उसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा, बिकॉज इट विल बी ट्रीटेड एज इक्वल टू लैंड. ठीक है, तो सेल ऑफ लैंड इज नॉट लायबल टू जीएसटी, बट सेल ऑफ बिल्डिंग अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन इज लायबल टू जीएसटी. देन एक्शनेबल क्लेम्स के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है. वी हैव सेड दैट एक्शनेबल क्लेम्स आर गुड्स, बट यहाँ पे बोलते हैं एक्शनेबल गुड्स के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा अदर देन लॉटरी, बेटिंग एंड गैम्बलिंग. बहुत सारे इमूवेबल एक्शनेबल क्लेम्स है, जैसे मैंने डेटा से रिकवर किया, दैट इज एक्शनेबल क्लेम, उन सब के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है, बिकॉज शेड्यूल 3 में नॉन टैक्सेबल नॉन टैक्सेबल जो है वो चीजें आती है यहाँ पे. सो एक्शनेबल क्लेम्स के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है अदर देन लॉटरी, बेटिंग एंड गैम्बलिंग. सो बेटिंग करते हैं, गैम्बलिंग करते हैं, हॉर्स रेसिंग करते हैं, लॉटरी में जो जीतते हैं उसके ऊपर जीएसटी लगेगा. ठीक है, सो एक्शनेबल क्लेम्स एक्सेप्ट लॉटरी, बेटिंग एंड गैम्बलिंग आर आउटसाइड द स्कोप ऑफ जीएसटी. ओनली ऑन लॉटरी, बेटिंग एंड गैम्बलिंग जीएसटी इज एप्लीकेबल. ठीक है, so these are the examples of non supplies under schedule 3. फिर notifications और clarifications भी आ सकते हैं. क्या आ सकते हैं? notifications में क्या बोला है उन्होंने? पंचायत एंड म्युनिसिपैलिटी फंक्शंस के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है. ठीक है, जो पंचायत का काम है, जो म्युनिसिपैलिटी का काम है, ठीक है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज सोवरेन फंक्शंस. इन सोवरेन फंक्शंस के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है. देन नोटिफिकेशंस में इन्होंने दिया है नोटिफिकेशन अल्कोहलिक लिकर लाइसेंस. तो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट अल्कोहल पे ऊपर जीएसटी चार्ज करता है और उसके लिए एक लाइसेंस सेल करता है, दैट हु कैन बाय दिस लाइसेंस. ठीक है, सो इफ यू हैव टू सेल लिकर यू हैव टू गेट अ लाइसेंस. सो इस लाइसेंस को खरीदने के लिए आपको ह्यूज कंसिडरेशन देना पड़ता है. ऑन दिस कंसिडरेशन जीएसटी विल अप्लाई और नो वाज द क्वेश्चन. देन दे हैव नोटिफाइड सेइंग दैट अल्कोहलिक लिकर लाइसेंस के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है. Then they have given a clarification: interstate movement of conveyance between distinct persons. लॉरी ट्रांसफर करता हूं मैं यहाँ से वहां और वो लॉरी बेचता है. सो ये तो मैं इधर से वहां पे मूव करूंगा ना, तभी तो सेल हो पाएगा. तो इंटरस्टेट मूवमेंट ऑफ कन्वेयंस बिटवीन डिस्टिंक्ट पर्सन्स इज नॉट लायबल फॉर जीएसटी. इंटरस्टेट मूवमेंट ऑफ रिग्स, टूल्स, स्पेयर्स एंड गुड्स ऑन व्हील्स, मतलब जो भी स्पेयर पार्ट्स, रिग्स, टूल्स और स्पेयर्स ऑन व्हील्स रहते हैं, on that also GST is not applicable. ठीक है, any questions till here? कमर्शियल प्रॉपर्टी पे जीएसटी जब भी लगेगा जब ओनर जीएसटी में रजिस्टर्ड है नहीं, ओनर जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन हो या नहीं हो, जो डेवलपर है वो आपको बेच रहा है तो वो लगाएगा. और registration non-registration I wouldn't say is a criteria. The criteria is whether on that transaction GST is applicable और उसका turnover cross होता है क्या. तो turnover cross हो गया तो GST तो लगेगा. What about casual workers? Casual workers also आप employees के अंदर ही दिखाओगे तो उसके ऊपर भी GST है. Like contract laborers, all of that is under labor thing itself, तो GST नहीं लगा. लेकिन these labor contracts अगर आप एक contractor को रखते हो और contractor आपको supply करता है, ठीक है, so you don't engage directly the contract workers, casual workers, you have a contractor who will appoint this casual workers. Okay, so then what supply he is providing? He is providing you not directly employee. So you don't have a direct relationship with the contractor as an employer-employee. You have a professional contract with him. So whatever he charges on the GST, he will charge. Because there the consideration is salary plus this charges. So it becomes a composite supply. On that GST, full value has to be charged. Actionable claim, Kavita, I have explained actionable claims is action, a claim, a right to a claim is an actionable claim. If I'm a business of real estate and selling of flats, if I charge some fees, is it supply of service of goods? It is classified under Schedule 2 as supply of service. Sale of house property is taxable under GST. So if it is constructed house, then no GST. If it is under construction, then GST will apply. वेरी गुड. सो फिर बिल्डिंग के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं हो सकता है बिकॉज ट्रांसफर ऑफ ओनरशिप राइट्स भी पास हो गया है, वो तो सेम ही है. हाँ, लेकिन उन्होंने शेड्यूल 2 में कैटेगराइजली मेंशन किया, शेड्यूल 2 और शेड्यूल 3 में. शेड्यूल 3 में बोल दिया है कि सेल ऑफ लैंड के ऊपर नहीं लगेगा सब्जेक्ट टू शेड्यूल 2, और शेड्यूल 2 में सेल ऑफ बिल्डिंग इज अ सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विस, क्योंकि जो बिल्डिंग सप्लाई हो रहा है मैं ट्रांसफर तो कर रहा हूँ लेकिन इन द प्रोसेस मैं उसको सर्विस भी प्रोवाइड कर रहा हूँ, इसीलिए उसके ऊपर जीएसटी लगेगा. बट इट स्टिल लिटिगेटिव, बहुत सारे लिटिगेशन चल रहे हैं. अभी के लिए ये आपको समझना चाहिए कि इसके ऊपर जीएसटी लगेगा. जब कोई कोर्ट डिसाइड करेगा कि बिल्डिंग के ऊपर भी मुझे जीएसटी नहीं लगना है, दैट विल नॉट बी देयर. बट अभी के एक्ट में तो इन्होंने ऐसे ही लिखा है. On lottery, GST and income tax both will apply. Yes, both will apply. For revision, you have revision modules under the ICI. You can go through that because it will be faster for you. Alcoholic liquor license means जब लिकर किसी को बेचना है तब उसको लाइसेंस चाहिए, उसको बोलते हैं alcoholic liquor license. Spare parts movements in bulk quantities. If I'm a trader in it, then it is liable to GST. But if I am not a trader, what they have said here is interstate movements of rigs, tools, spares and goods on wheels. मतलब जो conveyance transfer कर रहा हूँ, in that relation, that will not be liable for GST. I mean, engage in supply of car to government officials and charging GST without taking payment from the officer of monthly. The officer told me first to pay GST, then he will pay monthly amount. What kind of scenario is this? So basically, he has to get the credit of it. So that's the reason he's saying you pay GST and show him the evidence that you have paid, then he will pay you. Okay. So now we understood supply completely. This is where the various circulars and various explanations being given. Now we'll get into the concept of composite supply and mixed supply. Okay. Now we made a supply. Now supply doesn't mean that it will be one supply. It will be multiple supplies. That like example of air conditioner ho gaya. Yeah, when I deliver goods, the customer will tell that you deliver the goods to me, but my price, what you have agreed at is supply of goods. Now delivery also you do know. So I will tell, okay, delivery I will do, but I will charge you delivery charges. So on this delivery charges, what is the GST to be applied? Whether separate rate or same rate of the goods, because it is because he's buying the goods, he's I'm giving him delivery. I'm just not a delivery agent to just keep doing delivery. So when such kind of issues comes up, what should be the GST rate? That's the reason section 8 says composite and mixed supply. So we'll first understand what is composite supply. Composite supply means a supply made by a taxable person to a recipient. Matlab, taxable person means a person who is liable to tax and he's increased the threshold limit. Okay, so if any person who is crossed the limit and he is supplying, okay, to a recipient, and it comprises of two or more taxable supply of goods or services or any combination. मतलब एक goods एक service एक goods दो goods एक services any combination, but minimum two रहना चाहिए. Two or more taxable supply of goods or services or any combination thereof are naturally bundled, okay, are naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of business. They are naturally bundled. That becomes important. First तो दो और more supply होना चाहिए and it should be naturally bundled. Artificially bundling भी होता है और naturally bundling भी होता है. When they are naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of business, and one of which is a principal supply. So it's various conditions. Again, simple to understand. Composite supply means a supply which is made by a taxable person to a recipient and comprises of two or more taxable supplies of goods or services or any combination thereof, are naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of business, one of which is a principal supply to become a composite supply. ठीक है, हम इसका थोड़ा एग्जांपल भी लेंगे ताकि हम ठीक से समझ सके. Then we'll come back to the slide if you have any questions. Perception of the customer. How will you determine if it is in the ordinary course of business? Because I've said that it should be in the ordinary course of business. Very important. How will you decide if it is in the ordinary course of business? By these criteria. Perception of the customer or the service recipient. मेरा perception जब मैं खरीदने के लिए है, what is my perception? जब मैं मोबाइल परचेज करता हूँ, it is natural कि चार्जर भी आपको देना ही है. Even though there are two separate products, but मोबाइल के साथ तो चार्जर बनता है. ठीक है, so it is a mobile and charger is an example of composite supply. Even though दो सप्लाई है, अगर जीएसटी दो अलग अलग रेट पे लगेगा, अगर मोबाइल के ऊपर 12% है, चार्जर के ऊपर 18% है, तो आपको जीएसटी प्रिंसिपल सप्लाई का रेट के ऊपर लगेगा. यहाँ पे प्रिंसिपल सप्लाई क्या है? आप मोबाइल खरीदने जा रहे हो, चार्जर खरीदने, मोबाइल खरीदने. So when you buy mobile, what is the rate on mobile? That will apply on the mobile and charger. And it is naturally bundled. ऐसे नहीं कि artificial लेके इन्होंने bundle कर दिया कि मोबाइल है और चार्जर है, अभी स्क्रीन गार्ड है, तो स्क्रीन गार्ड है, ये इसके साथ नहीं आता है, स्क्रीन गार्ड अलग से उन्होंने दे दिया, लेकिन बिल एक का बना दिया. तो will you call it composite supply? नहीं, because it's a separate supply. It is not naturally bundled. So that is not an example of composite supply. So if it is not a composite supply, तो then क्या होगा? वो separate supply हो जाएगा. So separate supply, इसके ऊपर मोबाइल के ऊपर 5% है तो 5% लगाओ, जो स्क्रीन गार्ड है उसके ऊपर 12% है तो 12% लगाओ. बट मोबाइल और चार्जर बिकम्स अ कॉम्पोजिट सप्लाई, मोबाइल और चार्जर के ऊपर सेम जीएसटी रेट लगेगा. सो कॉम्पोजिट सप्लाई है, उसके ऊपर जो प्रिंसिपल सप्लाई का रेट है, दैट रेट विल अप्लाई ऑन एवरीथिंग. ठीक है. हाउ सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स इन दैट बिजनेस प्रोवाइड सिमिलर बंडल ऑफ सर्विस, दैट इज ऑल्सो डिफाइंड. जैसे एयर ट्रैवल करते हैं, सभी एयर कंपनीज क्या करते हैं? फूड कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री प्रोवाइड करती है, तो फूड बिकम्स अ पार्ट ऑफ कॉम्पोजिट एयर ट्रैवल सर्विस. Then nature of various services in a bundle of service. Example, stay at hotel. जब मैं होटल पे स्टे करूंगा तब जनरली कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री ब्रेकफास्ट मिलता है. सो हाउ द सर्विसेज इज बंडल्ड. ठीक है, कि वो बंडलिंग होता है कि होटल जैसे फूड के ऊपर 5% है और स्टे के ऊपर 12% है, तो मैं बोल रहा हूँ फ्री में प्रोवाइड करता हूँ या फिर कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री देता हूँ या फिर मैं आई विल चार्ज ओनली 500 रुपीज फॉर द फूड. सो इट इज अ बंडलिंग ऑफ सर्विस इन द नेचुरल मैनर, तो उसको भी कॉम्पोजिट कहेंगे. नॉर्मली एडवर्टाइज्ड एज अ पैकेज, एग्जैक्ट सेम थिंग, स्टे एज अ होटल. देन डिफरेंट एलिमेंट्स आर नॉट सेपरेटली अवेलेबल. एग्जांपल, वाटर प्यूरिफायर जब मैं एक्वागार्ड का खरीदता हूँ, ओके, तो उसके पार्ट्स भी मुझे उसको साथ में लेने पड़ते. तो डिफरेंट एलिमेंट्स आर नॉट सेपरेटली अवेलेबल. मैं वजह बोलूंगा नहीं मुझे पार्ट्स ही चाहिए, तो आपको नहीं मिलेगा. जब आप सर्विसिंग करोगे, सर्विसिंग के साथ मिलेगा. तो आप सर्विसिंग के लिए जब खरीदते हो, सर्विसिंग एएमसी जब पे करते हो, उसमें पार्ट्स का वैल्यू भी इंक्लूड हो जाता है. ठीक है, सो दैट्स एग्जांपल ऑफ कंपोजिट सप्लाई. देन डिफरेंट एलिमेंट्स आर एन इंटीग्रल पार्ट ऑफ द ओवरऑल सप्लाई. जैसे लैपटॉप खरीदता हूं विद ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम, जैसे आज ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम अलग से मिलता है, लेकिन फ्यू कंपनीज गिव लैपटॉप विद ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम और एक ही प्राइस चार्ज करते हैं. सो दैट इज एग्जांपल ऑफ कंपोजिट सप्लाई. ठीक है. वेरियस सर्कुलर्स इन दिस रिगार्ड इज printing of books, pamphlets, etc., where only content is supplied by the publisher. तो publisher है जो बुक्स का पब्लिशिंग करता है, is giving me the content and only content is supplied by the publisher or owner of the publishing rights, then it is supply of printing. तो मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, मैं मेरा दिमाग नहीं लग रहा हूँ, उसका कंटेंट लेके मैं पब्लिश कर रहा हूँ. सो इट इज सप्लाई ऑफ प्रिंटिंग सर्विस. It is treated as supply of printing service. It is treated as supply of service. लेकिन जब एक और एग्जांपल है, जब मैं एनवेलप्स देता हूँ, लेटर कार्ड्स देता हूँ, नैपकिन्स देता हूँ यूजिंग द लोगो ऑफ द रिसिपिएंट, लेकिन मटेरियल मेरे है, then the predominant supply is goods. ये जो लोगो वगैरह है, that becomes a small activity in it, so I cannot call it as supply of service. I'll be calling it as supply of goods. ठीक है? Then bus body building, whether it's goods or service, bus body building depends कि bus body building क्या मतलब क्या होता है. जो चैसी होता है, चैसी लेता हूं मैं और उसके ऊपर जॉब वर्क करता हूं फिटिंग्स डालने. So if it is supply of chassis by that person and I only do the fitting activity, then it is supply of service. लेकिन chassis भी मैं ही खरीदता हूँ, full body part मैं ही डालता हूँ, then becomes supply of goods. So it's a bus body building could be goods or services depending on the situation. ठीक है? Then retreading of tires. Retreading of tires is supply of service. मतलब पुराने टायर्स लेके मैं उसको क्लीन करके जो है थ्रेडिंग डालूं. तो ट्रेडिंग पुराने उसके टायर्स ही लेता हूँ कस्टमर्स के और उसके ऊपर रीथ्रेडिंग करता हूँ, क्या, ताकि उसकी लाइफ बढ़ सके. तो जो रीथ्रेडिंग करता हूँ दैट बिकम सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विस. लेकिन ओल्ड टायर्स भी मेरे ही है और मैं बोलता हूँ आई सेल ओल्ड टायर्स विद रीथ्रेडिंग, देन इट बिकम सप्लाई ऑफ गुड्स. ठीक है? सो यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड वेदर व्हाट इज द प्रिंसिपल सप्लाई, कि मैं क्या सर्विस प्रोवाइड करता हूँ या गुड्स प्रोवाइड करता हूँ. ठीक है? आईफोन वाले चार्जर नहीं देते. वेरी गुड पॉइंट. आईफोन वाले चार्जर नहीं देते. करेक्ट. तो फिर इन दैट केस यू नो दैट आईफोन नहीं देगा, तो फिर इट बिकम्स अ सेपरेट सप्लाई, नॉट अ कंपोजिट सप्लाई. When price of mobile with charges is 10,000, then GST is charged on 10,000 at the rate of mobile. Correct. If a composite supply rate is less than the service supply rate, this is a loss for the consumer to take as a bundle. Not like that. If a composite supply rate is less than the service supply rate, so it's not that service, goods, service, and composite supply, three things. No, it is goods and service. Within goods and service, you have whether it's composite supply, independent supply, or mixed supply. So if it is composite supply, then the rate what will apply will be of the principal supply. If it is a mixed supply, then the rate which is applicable on the highest rate will apply. And if it is separate supply, independent rate will apply. That's the only thing. It's not like that composite rate is a separate rate. Composite rate is the rate of the principal supply itself. अलग से schedule नहीं है, notification नहीं है. Notification है is for goods or service, और हमको decide करना है कि मैं जो supply कर रहा हूँ ये composite supply है या नहीं. ठीक है? अगर मैं composite supply कर रहा हूँ, जो principal supply करूंगा उसका rate मुझे लगना चाहिए. If I go on a tour through travel agency in which they book flight tickets, they book hotel rooms, arrange breakfast, lunch and dinner, they arrange vehicle to travel, is it a composite supply? Yes, it's a bundled package. Okay? If it's a bundled package, it's a composite supply. Good example, Ramchandra. Krishna, your questions are repeatedly coming. If I'm engaged in supplying card to government officials and charging GST without taking payment from the officer of monthly, the officer told me first to pay GST, then he will pay monthly amount. What kind of scenario is this? This is to ensure that they get the credit. So whatever GST we charge, government officers, they may say that, no, I have not got the credit. So first charge GST, okay? Charging GST without payment. So they'll pay you later on. That's what they say. Registration for intermediate course and study material with coaching classes is composite supply. Yes, that's a good example of composite supply. Okay. Now we'll get into mixed supply. So we understood composite supply. Mixed supply is opposite to that, wherein there are two or more individual supplies. It is not bundle supply, two or more individual supply of goods or any combination thereof. It could be one supply, two goods, one service, anything. Two or more individual supply of goods or services or any combination thereof made in conjunction with each other. मतलब दोनों को मिला के दे दिया. They have added both together and sold it for a single price, where such supply does not constitute a composite supply. मतलब it does not constitute a composite supply, but there are two or more supplies. Okay? Then the transaction consists of supplies not naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. मतलब composite supply में दो चीजों के हमने bundle कर दिया है, लेकिन mixed supply में हमने bundle किया है which could be individually sold. जैसे गिफ्ट हैम्पर बना दिया है जिसमें टूथपेस्ट टूथपेस्ट है, टूथब्रश है और शेविंग किट है. अब ये तीन वैसे भी अलग सेल हो सकते हैं, एंड वी जनरली बाय इट इंडिविजुअली. So it is not a composite supply because these are all not naturally bundled. They are artificially bundled, not naturally bundled. Okay, these are all not naturally bundled. तो इसके ऊपर जीएसटी क्या लगेगा? Whatever is the GST rate on the highest rate. जैसे टूथपेस्ट के ऊपर 12% है, शेविंग किट के ऊपर 5% है और टूथपेस्ट के ऊपर 18% है. Then if it is natural, if it is artificially bundled and sold, then the rate of 18% has to be applied on this. Very very dangerous, क्योंकि अगर मैं गिफ्ट हैम्पर बना के देता हूं then it's a bundled product, तो मुझे हाईएस्ट रेट जो है वो लगाना पड़ेगा. ठीक है. So in case of composite supply, the rate of principal supply will apply. But in case of a mixed supply, the rate of the highest rate on the packages will apply. Now there is an amendment in the Finance Act जो इसमें हमने already include कर दिया है. And they have inserted with effect from 1st July की supply of good by any incorporate association or body of persons to member thereof for cash deferred payment or other valuable consideration is there. ये पहले Finance Act में नहीं था, अभी पहले एग्जाम्स में नहीं आते थे. बिकॉज ऑफ फाइनेंस एक्ट जो अप्लीकेबल है आपको, दैट्स आई हाईलाइटेड हियर दैट दिस इज अ अमेंडमेंट, और जो अमेंडमेंट्स है उसके ऊपर आपको कॉन्सेंट्रेट करना पड़ेगा. होटल ब्राउनी एंड आइसक्रीम सर्व्ड एज डेजर्ट. यस, ब्राउनी एंड आइसक्रीम वैसे अलग से मिलता है, अब दोनों को मिला के करते हैं तो इट्स अ एग्जांपल ऑफ मिक्स सप्लाई. वेरी गुड. बट ब्राउनी और आइसक्रीम दोनों के ऊपर सेम रेट ही है, सो डजंट मैटर, 5% दोनों के ऊपर लगेगा. बिकॉज होटल में जो भी सप्लाई करते हैं, रेस्टोरेंट सर्विस जो है, रेट 5% ही है. अगर दो प्रोडक्ट का रेट हायर तो जो भी हाईएस्ट है, लेकिन जैसे अगर दो प्रोडक्ट है और दोनों का 18% है तो 18% ही लगेगा, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. Like in More or Reliance Fresh, when they supply everything, it is mixed supply or treated as individual supply. वहां पे तो इंडिविजुअल आइटम सेल कर रहे हैं, वैसे नहीं कि सब कुछ आइटम सेल करो आपको बंडल में दे दिया. आपको जो चाहिए आप वो खरीदोगे ना. सो दीज आर ऑल इंडिविजुअल सप्लाई, इट्स नॉट अ कॉम्पोजिट, neither a mixed supply. ठीक है, व्हाट यू वांट यू विल बाय इट. लेकिन वहां पे आप देखोगे कि थोड़े गिफ्ट हैम्पर्स बनते हैं, दिवाली के ऊपर क्या है, मिठाई भी रखेंगे, पटाखे भी रखेंगे एंड एवरीथिंग मिक्स करके बंडल करेंगे. दैट बिकम्स एन एग्जांपल ऑफ अ मिक्स्ड सप्लाई. करेक्ट ज्योति, यू आर राइट. गिफ्ट अगर कोई एम्प्लॉयर के अलावा 50,000 से ज्यादा दे तो फुल के ऊपर लगेगा, बिकॉज दैट एग्जेम्पशन इज ओनली 50,000 फॉर एम्प्लॉयर टू एम्प्लॉय. दूसरा कोई गिफ्ट दे तो उसको विदाउट कंसिडरेशन जीएसटी तो नहीं लगेगा, इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट रिवर्स करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है. So we have completed supply. We have understood composite supply and mixed supply. So wonderfully we have understood. Any doubts in this, please let me know. Else we will start with the MCQs. Okay. As and when I take MCQs, you can post your questions. I'll just wait for 2 minutes if there's any questions. No questions? गुड, ऑल टॉपिक्स आर श्योर. प्रैक्टिकल और थियरी दोनों आते हैं. इफ आई एम सप्लाइंग दिवाली मिठाई पैकेज वे बादाम, काजू कतली, पेप्सी एक्सेट्रा बंडल, व्हाट सप्लाई इट इज, वैसे सब कुछ अलग से मिलता है. और अगर आप इसको कंपोज बंडल करते हो तो इट्स अ मिक्स सप्लाई. अमेंडमेंट मेड इन फाइनेंस एक्ट. अमेंडमेंट में फाइनेंस एक्ट में कर दिया कि सप्लाई जो है, सप्लाई वाज डिफाइंड एज एनी सप्लाई मेड फॉर अ कंसिडरेशन एंड इट शुड बी फॉर इन द कोर्स ऑफ फर्दरेंस ऑफ बिजनेस. एंड बिजनेस में ऑलरेडी इंक्लूड था दैट any supply by a member to its association to its member was there in the definition of business. लेकिन क्या हुआ था, एक कलकत्ता हाईकोर्ट का केस आया था when they said that any supply by a club to its members is exempted. But then the GST authorities became cautious. ये बोलना नहीं चाहिए कि वहां पे सर्विस टैक्स में exempted था तो यहाँ पे भी exempted हो गया. तो इन्होंने अमेंडमेंट किया कि जो मैं सप्लाई है उसी में इंक्लूड कर दूंगा. So they had included in the definition of supply itself that any supply of goods by an unincorporated association of body of persons to a member, either for any consideration, is a supply itself. So it cannot get out of GST. So they wanted to ring fence it, saying that, okay, any transaction between a association to its members will be taxable. That's the reason this amendment came in. Why GST is charged on a construction project? Because construction is a huge industry, और construction के ऊपर आप GST नहीं चार्ज करोगे तो जो मटेरियल सप्लाई होता है उसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. सो कंस्ट्रक्शन इज अ सर्विस बिकॉज वहां पे आप कुछ भी बना रहे हो, इट्स नॉट फॉर योर पर्पस, इट्स फॉर द कंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी, द डेवलपमेंट कंपनी, जॉइंट वेंचर कंपनी, दे आर डूइंग इट फॉर अदर्स. सो इट्स अ सर्विस एक्टिविटी, दैट्स द रीजन इट इज चार्जेबल टू जीएसटी. ठीक है, लेट्स गेट इनटू द मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चन. मिस्टर ए इंपोर्टेड इंटीरियर डिजाइन सर्विसेज फ्रॉम कंपनी एक्स USA for a payment of $50,000 for his house construction in Hyderabad. Is this service treated as supply or no? 4 options, very easily given. ठीक है ज्योति, मैं आज की तरह इंग्लिश हिंदी दोनों कॉम्बिनेशन करूंगा. अगर मेरी एक कंपनी है और वो कलकत्ता में जीएसटी में रजिस्टर है और मेरे एक और ब्रांच बिहार में ओपन करता हूं, तो क्या मुझे उसके लिए अलग से लेना पड़ेगा? हाँ, कलकत्ता और बिहार 2 स्टेट अलग अलग है ना, तो आपको अलग से जीएसटी लेना पड़ेगा. एक जीएसटी आपको 2 स्टेट्स के लिए नहीं मिलेगा. आंसर नंबर फॉर क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 के लिए आंसर नो. Few people are saying option is A because import of service is not in the course of furtherance of business. It is not in the course of furtherance of business, but import of service is treated as supply even if it is not received in the course of furtherance of business. So most of you have given correct answer. It is B. Second MCQ. Lajawab India Private Limited sells a package of goods for a single price, which consists of one face cream, body lotion, hair oil, and perfume. These products can be sold individually. What type of supply it is and what GST rate is applicable? Two, most of you are giving correct answers. Somebody is saying 2B. Jyoti Jha, ठीक से बोलिए. 2D. Okay, amendment हो गया. Most of you are giving correct answer. It is an example of mixed supply and the highest GST जो है वही rate लगेगा. Good. Goods means every kind of movable property other than money and securities, but includes some and something. The word money used in the definition does not include what? ये हमने पढ़ा नहीं था, तो आई विल एक्सप्लेन यू दिस. तो मनी है वो इंडियन लीगल टेंडर है, इंडियन कॉइन्स नोट सभी है. मनी ऑर्डर इज ऑल्सो डिफाइंड. ठीक है, मनी का डेफिनेशन जब पढ़ेंगे तब हमें समझ में आएगा कि इंडियन लीगल टेंडर है, मनी ऑर्डर भी है, ट्रैवलर्स चेक को भी मनी ही कहेंगे, बिकॉज डिमांड ड्राफ्ट को भी मनी ही करेंगे, बिकॉज आपने पैसे दिया उसके अगेंस्ट वो इंस्ट्रूमेंट दे रहा है जिसे आप इन कैश कर सकते हो. सो ऑल ऑफ दिस इज मनी. लेकिन करेंसी दैट इज हेल्ड फॉर इज न्यूमिस्मेटिक वैल्यू. जैसे मैंने एक कॉइन लिया, उसके ऊपर इंदिरा गांधी का फोटो है. नाउ दैट आई एम होल्डिंग इट नॉट फॉर द वैल्यू ऑफ 5 रुपीज, बट वो मुझे एक्स्ट्रा रेट पे सेल हो सकता है बिकॉज इट हैज अ गुड वैल्यू. ठीक है, सो आई एम होल्डिंग इट फॉर इट्स न्यूमिस्मेटिक वैल्यू. तो दैट इज नॉट अ मनी. तो मैं उसे बेचूंगा. एक 5 रुपए का कॉइन अगर मैं 500 रुपए में बेचूंगा तो आई कैन नॉट टेल कि 500 रुपए इज अ ट्रांजैक्शन मनी, तो मैं जीएसटी पे नहीं करूंगा. सो अगर मैं न्यूमिस्मेटिक कॉइन्स रखता हूं, ठीक है, और उसे बेचता हूं, तो फिर उसके ऊपर जीएसटी लगेगा. इट इज नॉट अंडर द डेफिनेशन ऑफ मनी. न्यूमिस्मेटिक मीन्स स्टडी और कलेक्शन ऑफ कॉइन्स, बैंक नोट्स एंड मेडल्स. न्यूमिस्मेटिक कॉइन्स जब मैं कुछ करेंसी रखता हूं या यूएस डॉलर्स पुराने में रखता हूं ताकि आई कैन सेल इट if there is a good demand, not for the dollar but for the note, saying that if it is old, okay, or if it is some having some unique value in it, जैसे नोट्स के ऊपर कुछ नंबर्स रहते हैं, then it is not treated as money. So the correct answer for C is 3 is C. Please tell distinct person having same pen. Distinct persons having same pen will be liable to GST if they are registered under separate thing. But if they are having distinct persons having the same pen having one registration, then GST will not apply. Question number 4. Mr. X imported professional services in the course of furtherance of business from his son, Mr. Y, without consideration, who is staying in New York. Is it treated as supply or no? There is no consideration, right? Without consideration, import कर रहा है. Is stamps covered under currency held for numismatic value? Money is covered. Stamps are anyways, I would say stamps also would be covered under numismatic value. तो अगर stamps पुराने रखते हो और बेचते हो, that also GST would apply. In mixed supply, how will supply show product GST and separate products? While filing, in case of mixed supply, he will show that he is supplied the main product itself. Yeah, so main product है that he will disclose, not the individual products, because one rate, highest rate will apply. So the highest rate का जो product का description है that he will mention. Wow, A, B, C and D नहीं आया. A, B, C के बहुत सारे question options है यहाँ पे. B और C ज्यादा है. In fact, few people are saying B, few people are saying C. But the correct answer is not C, it is B, because it will be treated as a deemed supply even though there is no consideration, because it is a related person. Father and son related person hai, members of the same family. So even if it is not in the but the important point is it is in the course of furtherance of business. So professional service जो import कर रहा है, जो Indian entity है, that is for his business कर रहा है वो. ठीक है, अगर it was not in the course of furtherance of business, then GST नहीं लगेगा. But this is in the course of furtherance of business from his son staying in New York, तो इसके ऊपर GST लगेगा. So correct answer is B. Fifth question: which of the following activities are not treated as supply? Supply of goods between principal and agent without consideration, supply of services between principal and agent without consideration, supply of services with consideration, and all of them. Again, it is A, B, C, D. All the options coming up. Which of the following activities are not treated as supply? Correct answer. Most of you are giving right, but there are a few confusion. Answer is D. No, it is not all about. The supply of goods between principal and agent without consideration is a supply. Supply of services between principal and agent with consideration is supply, because if it is with consideration, it is supply. But supply of services between principal and agent without consideration is not a supply, because that schedule, what we read, schedule 1, it only spoke about goods, not of services. So services between principal and agent without consideration is not a supply. Answer is B. Okay. Sixth one, a publisher asked Mr. B, who is a proprietor of printing press, to print his script as books. Mr. B accepted his proposal and printed the books. While printing, Mr. B used his own papers to print the script. Is this transaction treated as supply of goods or services? Okay. Mr. B used his own papers. So correct answer for this will be a little tough. Sindhu, your answers are visible. Yes, your answers are coming to me. With consideration, without consideration क्या इफेक्ट होगा? With consideration होगा तो सप्लाई होगा, उसके लिए अनेक शेड्यूल 1 पे जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. शेड्यूल 1 पे जब जाएंगे तब कंसिडरेशन नहीं है, तो बहुत फर्क पड़ता है. Why not C? फिफ्थ वाले पे आप बोल रहे हो why not C? Because it is with consideration. Arpita, in case of C, it is with consideration, so it is a supply. Sixth one. Even though paper is used for printing, supply of printing is a principal supply, therefore treated as supply of service. Correct. So supply of printing is a principal supply. So इसीलिए answer is C. Seventh question. Service of cars includes supply of goods and supply of services. At what rate the goods and services are liable to tax if the value of spare parts and labor charges are indicated separately in the invoice? Seventh answer is A. If you are saying B, if you are saying C, the correct answer is when I am giving a car for services. अगर वो AMC ले रहे हैं, then it becomes a composite supply. लेकिन मैं कार दे रहा हूँ, वो मुझे बोल रहा है कि गुड्स के लिए इतना है, सर्विस के लिए इतना वैल्यू है, अलग से डिस्टिंग्विश कर रहा है. इट इज नॉट अ मिक्स सप्लाई. दीज आर ऑल इंडिविजुअल सप्लाईज. सो यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड टू थिंग्स. कॉम्पोजिट सप्लाई हो गया, मिक्स सप्लाई हो गया, हर जगह ये नहीं लगेगा. जब देयर आर टू थिंग्स, अभी मैं बाजार में जाता हूँ, सुपर मार्केट पे जाता हूँ और आई बाई अ सोप, आई बाई सेपरेट टूथपेस्ट, तो इन दोनों को मिक्स सप्लाई बोलेंगे या कॉम्पोजिट बोलेंगे? दोनों नहीं कहेंगे, बिकॉज दीज आर टू इंडिविजुअल सप्लाईज. तो इसके ऊपर जो रेट है वो लगेगा, इसके ऊपर कार मोबाइल के सोप के ऊपर रेट है वो अलग से लगेगा और टूथपेस्ट के ऊपर जो रेट है वो अलग से लगेगा. तो हर जगह कॉम्पोजिट और मिक्स सप्लाई नहीं लगाई है, ये अलग से इन्होंने इनवॉइस पे रेट सेपरेटली मेंशन किया है. तो रेस्पेक्टिव रेट्स विल अप्लाई ऑन गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज रेस्पेक्टिवली. ठीक है, बहुत कंफ्यूजिंग क्वेश्चन है. अब जनरली ये बोलोगे कि नहीं ये दोनों अलग है, इन्होंने मिक्स कर दिया है, तो इट बी समटाइम्स कॉल्ड एज कंपोजिट सप्लाई, क्योंकि मैं जब सर्विस करूंगा तब ये भी साथ में आएगा. अगर वो एक ही रेट लेता है, थिंक दैट पैकेज रेट फॉर सर्विसिंग, देन इट विल बी ए. लेकिन जब वो अलग चार्ज कर रहा है और मुझे अलग से रेट दे रहा है, देन इट विल बिकम बी और रेस्पेक्टिव रेट्स विल अप्लाई. Mr. A sends goods to Mr. B for a job worker who is a job worker for packaging the goods in a corrugated boxes. मतलब boxes में डालने के लिए भेज रहे हैं. Is it treated as supply of goods or supply of service? It is supply of service, so it will be treated as a supply of service. Correct answer is B. Ramchandra, it is not C because job worker is treated as an agent of Mr. A. No, agent is an agent. Job worker is not an agent because he's not selling goods on behalf of the principal or anything. So he's not an agent. That's only to confuse you. So job worker finishes job, collects the job working charges and returns back the goods. So he's not a agent. He is treated as a supply of service itself. Shivani Kashyap, I cannot see your answers. I can only see, yeah, I can see your answers. B is the correct answer. Ninth question, Ms. Deepa is applying for bank exam. She's supposed to pay application fees through demand draft. Now she went to bank and made application to convert money into demand draft. Bank charges a service fee for converting money into demand draft. Is this transaction amounting to supply? नो बिकॉज मनी इज नॉट इंक्लूडेड इन डेफिनेशन ऑफ गुड्स. ठीक है, मनी नहीं है, लेकिन वो जो बैंक चार्जेस चार्ज कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज कंसिडरेशन चार्ज और कन्वर्जन ऑफ मनी फ्रॉम वन फॉर्म टू अनदर फॉर्म इज द सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विस. सो करेक्ट आंसर इज बी, दैट कंसिडरेशन चार्ज फॉर कन्वर्जन ऑफ मनी इज लायबल फॉर जीएसटी. Okay, 9 answer is B, correct. 10th one, under what circumstances donation is not chargeable to GST? Tenth one, C and D, all of the above. All of the above is not chargeable to GST. Because I do donation for advertisement, it is not chargeable. When I give for commercial purpose, is it not chargeable? No, B is not the wrong correct answer, because D is saying that all the transactions it is not chargeable. But in A it is chargeable, no, because I'm giving for a commercial purpose with quid pro quo from the donee. And even if I give it for advertisement, there is a quid pro quo. So A and B is not the answer. The correct answer is C, wherein I give for philanthropic purpose, matlab for the purpose what it is formed for that purpose which I give. So only in that case, it is not liable to GST. What is meaning of point A? For commercial purpose, matlab I give donation, but I say that, okay, you have to give me the products which you develop at your NGO. I give donation and I tell that, okay, whatever Diaz you're doing, you have to give it to me. So it's a commercial purpose. I'm expecting something in return. So 10A will make it supply. liable to GST. But philanthropic purpose means the purpose why it has been formed. Charitable purpose bolo, philanthropic purpose bolo. The same on that GST will not apply. Permanent transfer of disposal of business assets without consideration is treated as supply if permanent. Okay, so we have few more questions. We'll quickly go this. I will tell you the answer. The 11th one answer is D. Most of you are giving a correct answer. It is both A and C. It is transfer must be permanent and ITC should be available. Only if both these conditions are there, only then it will be liable for without consideration is treated as supply. 12th question, UB bought an asset on 1st January 2015 and now made a permanent transfer of disposal of assets without consideration. Is it treated as supply or no? Yes, since it is sale of asset. Yes, since ITC was claimed and sold without consideration. No, ITC was not claimed. No, since ITC was not claimed and there is no consideration. So why I have mentioned this question here is 1st January 2015 is the important point here. GST came into effect on 1st July 2017. Correct? But if any assets is purchased before that, they wouldn't have claimed the input tax credit. So जब input tax credit claim नहीं हुआ है, then there is no consideration, तो फिर GST नहीं लगेगा. Okay. 13.1. Mr. X has obtained 2 registrations, one in Karnataka, one in establishment A, and one in establishment B. Any transfer made between A and B is treated as supply? Yes, no. If no, what are the reasons? Last question for the day. Correct answer is B. Correct. So because establishments A and B will be treated as distinct persons because they're registered in one state, but one in establishment A, 2 registrations they've taken. Okay. So then they will be treated as distinct persons. So 13 answer is B. Great. We have come to the end of this session on supply. You've understood clearly what is supply, composite, mixed supply, examples. Wonderful. We'll meet on the next class on Saturday. Diwali ke pehle mil rahe hain. Don't take a leave. Next class will be a very important class. See you in the next class. Thank you very much. Good night. Eight answer should be D. Okay, let me go to 8, question number 8. Treated as supply of service. Yes, 8 it is B. Which point? 8 is not on employee services. 8 is on job worker services. Yes, Prakash Prasad, please tell me your question. Great, Sapna. Every topic is perfectly clear to you. That's wonderful. Question number 1. If Mr. A is unregistered not registered, then is he liable to GST? Still he is liable for GST, because import of service, if it is from a related person, then it will be liable for GST, and he has to register and pay the GST because he is using it for his business purposes. Okay, interior design services from company X USA for a payment of 50,000, because import of service, even if it is not received in the course of furtherance of business, import of service, even if it is not in the course of furtherance of business, it will be liable for GST. Yes, but exemption aa jayega, exemption will save him, but prima facie from the law perspective, it is liable. Okay, thank you very much. Supply chapter over. Yes, supply is completely over.